Consider a lake at dawn, a perfect mirror of glass reflecting an endless sky. Every detail, every cloud, every whisper of light is held in its perfect stillness. But then, a single pebble, a small, thoughtless stone is tossed, and in an instant, the sky shatters. The perfect image dissolves into 1,000 frantic ripples, distorting everything. The reflection is lost, replaced by chaos. Is your mind not this lake? Have you ever stopped to ask what happens when we cease, even for a moment, to throw the pebbles of anxious thought, of reactive urgency, of needless action into its depths? What truth might be reflected if we simply allowed the water to be still? We live in a world that glorifies the ripple. We have built a culture that worships the splash, that mistakes frantic motion for progress. We wear our exhaustion as a badge of honor, our packed schedules as proof of our worth. We run endlessly, not always toward a destination, but away from a silence we have been taught to fear. We act constantly, not because the action is wise or necessary or true, but because stillness feels like a void, an admission of failure. We fear that if we stop moving, we will have to face the vast, unsettling quiet we suspect is waiting for us just beneath the surface of our constructed busyness. We believe our value is forged in the fire of effort measured by the sum of our deeds. So we push, we strive, we hustle, we grind, stirring the waters of our own minds into a constant, muddy turmoil, never allowing the sediment to settle, never allowing for clarity. We chase a peace that cannot be caught, because peace is not found in the chase, it is found in the pause. This, right here, is an invitation to step out of that race. Not to a physical place, but to a space of profound permission, a sanctuary you build within yourself, breath by breath. Here, you are given permission to lay down the stones, permission to do nothing, to achieve nothing, to prove nothing. Here, we invite the silence to speak, for it has much to tell us. This is not an act of surrender, nor is it an escape. It is, perhaps, the most courageous act of all. It is the beginning of a true confrontation, not with the world, but with the self, in its rawest, most honest form. It is the starting point of a journey to uncover a force more potent than any frantic effort. This is where we begin to understand the immense, world-shaping power of non-action. We begin by examining the cage. It is a peculiar prison, for it has no visible bars, no locked doors, no armed guards. Its walls are woven from the fabric of our own ambition, its shackles forged from our own to-do lists. This is the invisible prison of busyness, and we are both its willing inmates and its unsuspecting wardens. We have convinced ourselves that the constant motion, the ceaseless activity, is a sign of life, of vitality. But look closer. It is the frantic twitching of a nerve, not the steady beat of a heart. We have mistaken the hum of anxiety for the song of purpose. This addiction to busyness is one of the most subtle and pervasive maladies of our time, because we have reframed the symptom as the cure. We feel anxious, so we work more. We feel empty, so we fill our calendars. We feel disconnected from ourselves, so we connect to more devices, respond to more emails, and attend more meetings, hoping that by adding more layers, we can somehow find the core. But the core is not found by adding, it is found by stripping away. Let us be honest about the nature of this addiction. It is a defense mechanism of the ego, the part of us that thrives on definition, on comparison, on doing. The ego is terrified of silence, for in silence it has no role to play. In a state of pure being, the ego dissolves. It cannot be the one who is resting. It must be the one who is achieving, the one who is solving, the one who is conquering. And so, it manufactures a constant stream of tasks and worries to justify its own existence. I am busy, the ego declares, and what it really means is, I am important, I am needed, I exist. It has become the default answer, the modern mantra. Ask someone how they are, and the response is no longer an emotion, but a state of activity. Busy, so busy. It is said with a strange mix of complaint and pride, a subtle performance to signal our relevance in a world that equates stillness with obsolescence. We are terrified of being unplugged, not merely from our technology, but from the collective delusion that our worth is directly proportional to our output. This busyness is also a powerful anesthetic. It is a socially acceptable way to numb ourselves, to avoid the difficult internal work that stillness demands. When you are constantly moving, you do not have to feel the dull ache of a dream you abandoned. You do not have to confront the quiet disappointment of a relationship that has grown hollow. You do not have to ask the terrifying fundamental questions, am I happy? Is this the life I truly want? What is my purpose beyond this next deadline? Busyness provides a convenient excuse. There is no time for such navel-gazing, we tell ourselves. There is work to be done. We use our obligations as a shield, protecting us from the penetrating gaze of our own soul. We are running from the quiet, intimate conversation that our deeper self is waiting to have with us. The tragedy is that every answer we seek in the external world, every piece of validation we crave, is waiting for us in that very silence we so desperately avoid. We are like thirsty people digging for water in the sand, all while sitting beside a deep, clear well, refusing to look down. This creates a profound and exhausting internal conflict. There is a part of you, your body, your very essence, that is begging for rest. You feel it in the heaviness of your eyelids, the tension in your shoulders, the fog in your mind. It is a deep, primal need for recovery, for integration, for peace. It is the soul whispering, please, be still. But then, almost immediately, another voice cracks like a whip. It is the voice of guilt, of shame, of fear. You can't stop now. You will fall behind. Everyone else is still working. Resting is for the weak, for the lazy. What will they think of you? This inner tyrant is relentless. It is the voice of our conditioning, the echo of a society that has forgotten the rhythm of nature, the sacred cycle of action and repose. And so we are torn. We crave the release of the pause, yet we are chained to the momentum of the push. We lie in bed at night, physically exhausted but mentally racing, composing emails in our heads, replaying conversations, planning the next day's battle. We are at war with our own nature, and it is a war we can never win, only perpetually fight to the point of our own collapse. The desire for peace battles the fear of being seen as unproductive, and in this stalemate, we find burnout, a state of being where we are too tired to continue, but too afraid to stop. The core message, the light that can penetrate this self-imposed darkness, is this: your value is not a commodity. It cannot be earned through labor, and it cannot be lost through rest. Let this sink into the very marrow of your bones. Your worth is not a stock that rises with every task completed and falls with every moment of stillness. You are not a machine whose only function is production. You are a living, breathing piece of the universe. And your primary value, your deepest truth, is in your being, not your doing. A mountain is not worthy because it produces minerals. It is worthy because it is a mountain. A star is not valuable because it burns. It is valuable because it is a star. Your existence itself is the miracle. Your consciousness is the prize. You do not need to justify your presence here on this earth with a crowded calendar. You have already been given the gift. The work is not to earn it, but to realize it, to experience it. And that experience is only possible when you give yourself permission to be still enough to feel your own existence. True productivity, the kind that creates real value and meaning, is not born from a frantic mind. It is born from a clear one. A moment of quiet contemplation that prevents a single disastrous decision is infinitely more productive than 100 hours of busy work heading in the wrong direction. Rest is not the enemy of accomplishment. It is the fertile ground from which all meaningful accomplishment grows. Imagine a hamster on a wheel. It runs with all its might, its tiny legs a blur of motion. It feels the wind of its own making. It expends enormous energy. It is utterly convinced of its own progress. From its perspective, it is on an epic journey. But we, from the outside, see the truth. It is going nowhere. The scenery never changes. The destination is never reached. This is the perfect metaphor for the prison of busyness. It creates the illusion of forward momentum while keeping you locked in the exact same place, spiritually and emotionally. Getting off the wheel is terrifying. The sudden stillness feels wrong. The lack of momentum feels like failure. The world seems to rush past you. But only when the hamster steps off the wheel can it actually look around the room, discover the door, and walk out into the freedom of the wider world. So here is the practice. Here is the key to unlock your own cage. It is not complex, it is not easy, but it is simple. For the next week, schedule an appointment with yourself, just 10 minutes. Put it in your calendar, as you would any other important meeting. This appointment is called doing nothing. When the time comes, find a chair, sit in it, set a timer for 10 minutes. Your only task is this, to do nothing. You are not to meditate. You are not to focus on your breath. You are not to try and clear your mind. You are not to solve problems or plan your evening. You are explicitly forbidden from being productive in any way. Your task is to simply sit and to watch the rebellion. Observe, as a curious scientist would observe a chemical reaction. Watch how your mind squirms and protests. Watch it invent a dozen urgent tasks you suddenly need to do. Watch it remind you of an email you forgot to send. Feel the physical itch in your fingers to reach for your phone. Feel the restlessness in your legs, the urge to get up, to clean something, to organize something, to do anything other than be still. Do not fight these urges. Do not judge them. Simply notice them. You can say to yourself, there it is, the twitch, the habit, the voice of the warden. These urges, these thoughts, these physical sensations are the invisible bars of your prison. By watching them without acting on them, you begin to see them for what they are, conditioned reflexes, not absolute commands. You are not the frantic hamster. You are the consciousness that is watching the hamster. And in that tiny space of separation, between the impulse and the action, lies the beginning of all freedom. The first time you do this, it may feel like the longest 10 minutes of your life. But in witnessing your own inner chaos without being consumed by it, you learn that you are larger than your restlessness. You are the quiet space in which the noise happens, and that is where your true power resides. As we begin to dismantle the walls of our inner prison, a crucial question arises, a doubt that can halt our progress before it truly begins. The mind, accustomed to its patterns, will hear the call to stillness and immediately confuse it with a call to apathy. It will hear non-action and translate it as inaction. It will equate the wisdom of the pause with the paralysis of laziness. This misunderstanding is a formidable obstacle, for it presents us with a false choice, either the frantic, exhausting slavery of busyness or the stagnant, aimless drift of indifference. We must draw a line in the sand, clear and deep, to distinguish these two states. For one is a path to freedom, and the other is just a different kind of cage. Inaction is not a choice. It is a collapse. It is born of fear, of hopelessness, of a profound disconnection from our own power. It is the state of the person who is too afraid to fail, and so never begins. It is the quiet resignation of someone who believes their actions have no consequence, that the world is something that happens to them, not with them. Inaction is heavy. It carries the weight of unspoken words, of untaken chances, of a life lived in the shadows of its own potential. It is the feeling of procrastination, that draining cycle of avoidance and guilt. It is a closed system, a stagnant pond where energy dies. It is the abdication of your throne, leaving your inner kingdom to be ruled by circumstance. Non-action. The principle we seek to understand is the polar opposite. It is not born of fear, but of profound courage and wisdom. It is not passive, it is powerfully receptive. It is not a collapse, but a state of dynamic, vibrant readiness. Non-action, known in some traditions as Wu Wei, is the art of acting in harmony with the natural flow of things. It is a state of supreme awareness, of being so attuned to the currents of reality that your actions are no longer clumsy interruptions, but graceful continuations of a larger pattern. It is light, it is fluid, it is potent. While inaction is the state of giving up your power, non-action is the state of wielding your power with such precision and intelligence that it appears effortless. It is the stillness of a predator, utterly alert, every muscle ready, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. It is the stillness of a master archer, holding the drawn bow, not out of hesitation, but out of a deep communion with the target, the wind, and the arrow, releasing only when all three are in perfect alignment. Inaction is paralysis. Non-action is potential energy, coiled and ready. This confusion creates a deep internal conflict, a pendulum swing inside the soul. You may recognize it within yourself. 1 week, driven by guilt and ambition, you operate from a place of frantic action, trying to control every outcome, micromanage every detail, forcing things to happen through sheer willpower. You are rowing with all your might, against the wind and the current, and you make some progress, but the cost is immense. You end the week depleted, frustrated, and burnt out. The following week, in a state of exhaustion, you swing to the other extreme, inaction. You let go of the oars completely. You declare, "I surrender." But it is a surrender of defeat, not of wisdom. You become passive, letting the boat of your life drift aimlessly, bumping into rocks, at the mercy of every whim of the water. You feel a sense of powerlessness, of being a victim. You have confused letting go of the struggle with letting go of the helm. This violent swing between manic control and depressive apathy is exhausting, because both extremes are disconnected from reality. Neither path recognizes that you are a partner with the river, not its master nor its slave. The path of non-action is the third way, to hold the helm with a light but firm touch, to read the currents, to feel the direction of the wind, and to use these natural forces to guide you, rather than fighting them. The core message is this: non-action is not about not doing. It is about the cessation of frantic, ego-driven, and unnecessary doing. It is about aligning your personal will with the universal will, so that your efforts are amplified rather than resisted. The art lies in discerning the right time and the right type of action. Sometimes, the most powerful action is to wait. Sometimes, it is to listen. Sometimes, it is to speak a single, well-chosen word. Sometimes, it is to perform a great feat of effort, but only when the ground is fertile and the time is ripe. It is the difference between trying to push a car with a flat tire and taking the time to fix the tire first. The latter involves a period of non-action on the goal of moving forward. But it is this intelligent pause that makes the subsequent journey possible and efficient. Action without awareness is simply a waste of life force. It is throwing seeds on concrete. Non-action is the wisdom to first find the fertile soil. Consider the wise farmer. His life is a masterclass in non-action. A foolish farmer, driven by anxiety and greed, might plant his seeds and then, every morning, pull on the young sprouts, trying to force them to grow faster. In his frantic action, he destroys the very thing he wishes to cultivate. He is acting against nature. The wise farmer, however, understands the rhythm of things. He performs intense, difficult action at the right time. He breaks the hard ground. He meticulously clears the stones and weeds. He enriches the soil. This is hard work. Then, he plants the seeds with care and precision. He waters them. And then, he enters a period of what might look like inaction. He waits, but his waiting is not empty. It is a state of active, patient awareness. He is watching the sky for signs of rain. He is observing the leaves for any sign of disease. He is mending his fences to protect the coming crop. He is not idle. He is attentive. He does his part, the part that only he can do, and then he trusts the larger forces of nature to do theirs. He trusts the sun, the rain, the mysterious intelligence within the seed itself. He does not confuse his role with the role of the universe. When the time for harvest comes, he again explodes into focused, intense action. His life is a dance between doing and being, between effort and trust. This is non-action. It is the deepest form of collaboration with reality. To begin cultivating this wisdom in your own life, you must become a student of your own impulses. Here is a practice, a way to bring the farmer's wisdom into your daily life. It is the panic versus purpose audit. Throughout your day, especially in moments where you feel a strong urge to act, to speak, to respond immediately, take one single conscious breath. It is a sacred pause. In the space created by that breath, ask yourself one simple question. Is this impulse born from panic, or is it born from purpose? Be brutally honest with yourself. The urge to immediately answer a challenging email, is it born from a clear purpose or from a panic about what the other person might be thinking? Could a more purposeful action be to wait an hour, to let your own emotional reaction subside, and to craft a response that is calm and constructive? The urge to fill a moment of silence in a conversation with nervous chatter, is it born from a desire to connect or from a panic about perceived awkwardness? Could the more purposeful non-action of simply sharing the silence for a moment lead to a deeper level of communication? The impulse to check your phone for the 10th time in an hour, is it purposeful or is it a panic twitch to escape the boredom or discomfort of the present moment? Do not judge what you find. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to become aware. You are simply gathering data, becoming a cartographer of your own inner landscape. As you practice this, you will begin to notice a pattern. You will be astonished to discover how much of your daily activity, how many of your words, how much of your busyness is driven by a low-grade simmering panic. The fear of being left out, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of not being in control, the fear of not being enough. By simply identifying and labeling an impulse as panic, you rob it of its power. You create a space between the stimulus and your response. In that space, you are no longer a slave to your reactions. In that space, you have a choice. You can choose to let the wave of panic pass. You can choose to wait for the clear, quiet voice of purpose to emerge. This is the first practical step in learning the dance of non-action. It is how you stop pulling on the sprouts and begin to cultivate the soil. Imagine you are holding a glass of water, freshly scooped from a turbulent riverbed. It is cloudy, filled with a swirling chaos of sand, silt, and forgotten debris. Your vision cannot penetrate it. It is a microcosm of a mind in turmoil, clouded by anxieties, regrets, and the endless chatter of internal dialogue. What is your first instinct when faced with this murky glass? If you are like most, your instinct is to do something, to fix it. Perhaps you try to shake it, hoping to break the particles apart. Or you dip your finger in, trying to guide the sediment to one side. Or maybe you search for some kind of filter, a complex tool to force the water through, to strain out the impurities. Each of these actions, born from a desire for clarity, achieves the exact opposite. Every shake, every stir, every attempt at forceful intervention only increases the turmoil, ensuring the water remains hopelessly opaque. This is the fundamental paradox of the mind. Our very effort to pacify it is what keeps it in a state of agitation. We are a culture that worships the intellect, the problem solver within. From a young age, we are taught to analyze, to deconstruct, to find solutions. When a problem appears in the external world, this faculty is invaluable. But when we turn this same mechanism upon the contents of our own consciousness, it becomes a weapon against ourselves. A painful thought arises, a memory tinged with regret, a wave of anxiety about the future. The mind immediately labels this a problem and deploys its toolkit. It begins to argue with the thought, I shouldn't feel this way. It tries to suppress it. I'll just think about something else. It engages in endless analysis. Why am I feeling this? Where did it come from? What does it mean? Each of these strategies is another vigorous stir of the spoon in the glass. Arguing with a thought gives it solidity and power. Suppressing a thought is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It will eventually burst to the surface with even greater force. Analyzing a thought is to become lost in its narrative, to follow one swirling particle of sand into a blinding dust storm of related thoughts and worries. We fail to realize that the thoughts themselves are not the problem. The problem is our violent, desperate reaction to them. The problem is the stirring. This creates a deep and exhausting internal conflict. There is a part of you that craves peace, that yearns for the simple clarity of a still mind. But there is another part, an anxious, well-intentioned tinkerer, that is terrified of letting go of the spoon. It believes, with absolute conviction, that its constant intervention is all that stands between you and utter chaos. If I stop fighting this anxiety, it screams, it will consume me. If I stop trying to solve this worry, the worst will certainly happen. Stillness is negligence. It is surrender. The dirt will win. This inner tinkerer cannot fathom that its help is actually the source of the problem. To let a painful thought simply exist, unmolested, feels profoundly counterintuitive. It feels like malpractice of the soul. We are caught in a feedback loop. The murkiness of the water justifies the need to stir, and the stirring is what creates the murkiness. We become locked in a battle with our own minds, believing that peace is a victory to be won, a state to be achieved through relentless effort. But peace is not an achievement, it is a homecoming. The core message, the wisdom that shatters this paradigm, is this: you cannot clear a rushing river by force. You can only allow it to grow calm. The solution to the muddy water is not a tool, but a universal law. It is gravity. When you make the courageous choice to do nothing, to simply place the glass on a stable surface and walk away, an ancient, silent wisdom takes over. The frantic energy dissipates, the swirling slows, and then, particle by particle, the heavier elements, the fears, the obsessions, the sharp-edged regrets naturally, effortlessly, begin to drift downwards. They are not destroyed. They are not exiled. They simply settle. They find their proper place at the bottom, integrated into the whole, but no longer obscuring the vision. And as they settle, the water above them transforms. It does not become clear because you have added anything to it. It becomes clear because you have stopped adding disturbance. Clarity is the mind's natural state. Peace is the default setting. It is not something you must build, but something you must allow to reveal itself. The path to wisdom is not found in thinking more, but in thinking less. It is found in the sacred, powerful act of letting things be. The practical application of this wisdom is a form of meditation, but let us strip that word of its intimidating baggage. Think of it not as a complex spiritual discipline, but simply as the act of putting the glass down. Your task is to become the table, stable, patient, and accepting. Find a place where you can sit undisturbed for a few minutes. Your posture does not need to be perfect. Simply sit in a way that is both relaxed and alert. A posture of quiet dignity. You may close your eyes, or you may let your gaze rest softly on a spot on the floor a few feet in front of you. Now, your instruction is this: do nothing. Your only job is to witness the contents of your mind without interfering. A thought about an unfinished task at work arises. See it. You might silently label it in your mind, thinking, and then you let it go. You do not climb aboard the thought and ride it into a chain of other thoughts. You simply watch it as you would watch a single cloud drift across the vast blue sky. It is there, and then it is gone. A feeling of restlessness begins to stir in your body. Observe it. Where is it located? What are its physical sensations? Do not judge it as good or bad. Do not wish for it to leave. Simply observe. Ah, restlessness. It is just another particle of sediment swirling in the glass. A memory from childhood, a snatch of a song, a plan for dinner. See them all. Acknowledge their presence with a gentle, detached curiosity. They are the natural activity of the mind, like the weather. Your job is not to control the weather. Your job is to be the sky, the vast, unchanging space in which all weather happens. Inevitably, you will become distracted. A thought will hook you, and you will forget you are observing. You will suddenly find yourself 5 minutes deep in a mental movie, completely lost, stirring the waters furiously. This is not a failure. It is a critical, beautiful moment of the practice. The instant you realize you have been lost, you are found. That moment of awareness is a moment of pure grace. In that instant, you have stepped out of the storm and have become the observer once again. Without any drama, without any self-criticism, you gently release the thought and return your attention to the simple act of watching. Each time you do this, you are strengthening a muscle. You are building the habit of non-interference. As you continue this practice, day after day, something quiet and miraculous begins to occur. The frantic energy of the mind begins to calm. The gaps between the thoughts grow longer. The water in the glass has moments, and then minutes, of astonishing clarity. In these moments of stillness, you experience a profound shift in identity. You begin to realize in your bones that you are not the sediment. You are not the anxiety, not the anger, not the endless stream of thoughts. You are the still, clear water itself. You are the silent, spacious consciousness in which all of this activity arises and subsides. This is not a philosophical idea to be understood. It is a truth to be directly experienced. And in that experience, you will find a peace that cannot be shaken, a clarity that cannot be disturbed, for it does not depend on the absence of mud. It depends only on your willingness to stop stirring. Now that we have learned to distinguish wise non-action from fearful inaction, we must confront one of inaction's most sophisticated and treacherous disguises, the trap of endless preparation. This is not the crude, overt paralysis of apathy. This is a far more intelligent, more respectable form of stagnation. It masquerades as diligence. It speaks with the voice of prudence. It cloaks itself in the noble robes of research, planning, and strategy. It is the part of us that whispers, "Not yet. You're not ready. You need more information. You need a better plan. You must wait for the perfect moment." And so we wait, believing we are being responsible, while our dreams quietly suffocate in the padded cell of our own caution. This is the paralysis of the perfectionist, the curse of the intelligent, the endless prelude to a performance that never begins. Let us dissect this mechanism, for it is a masterpiece of self-deception. The act of preparation provides a powerful and seductive illusion of control. As long as you are reading one more book on entrepreneurship, taking one more course on writing, or refining your business plan for the 17th time, you remain in a safe, theoretical world. In this world, your idea is flawless. Your potential is infinite. Your project is untarnished by the messy, unpredictable, and often disappointing realities of execution. In the realm of pure potential, failure is impossible. The trap is that this feeling of productivity is just that, a feeling. It is a proxy for real progress, a low-stakes activity that keeps the fear of true engagement at bay. The real act, the first step into the arena, means surrendering this illusion of control. It means exposing your perfect idea to the friction of reality. It means opening yourself to feedback, to criticism, to unforeseen problems, and to the very real possibility that you might fail. Endless preparation is a strategy to postpone this moment of vulnerability indefinitely. This fear of failure is often intertwined with the tyranny of perfectionism. The perfectionist is not driven by a healthy desire for excellence, but by a crippling fear of judgment. The goal is not to create something good. The goal is to be seen as someone who is incapable of creating something bad. And so, The perfectionist constructs an impossible standard, a bar so high that it can never be cleared. The perfect moment they are waiting for is a mythical time when they feel completely invulnerable, when their skills are unassailable, their knowledge is complete, and success is not just likely, but guaranteed. Of course, this moment will never arrive. Life does not offer such guarantees. And so, the endless planning continues, a shield to protect a fragile ego from the judgment it so desperately fears. In our modern age, this tendency is amplified by the infinite availability of information. Research has become a bottomless rabbit hole. You can spend a lifetime consuming tutorials, articles, and podcasts about a skill without ever practicing the skill itself. This consumption feels productive. It feels like you are moving forward, but information that is not integrated through application is merely intellectual clutter. It is a sophisticated form of hoarding, a way to feel prepared without ever having to be tested. This gives rise to a painful internal conflict between aspiration and intimidation. A genuine spark ignites within you, the desire to write the novel, to start the meaningful project, to learn the new language, to finally have that difficult, heart-opening conversation. This aspiration is pure and beautiful, but it is immediately met by a tidal wave of intimidation. You look at the blank page, and you see not a space of possibility, but the crushing weight of all the great books ever written. You think of your business idea, and you are paralyzed by the success of established competitors. The gap between your current, flawed self and the idealized, finished product seems to be an uncrossable chasm. To manage this cognitive dissonance, the mind creates the most dangerous myth of all, the myth of one day. One day, when I feel more confident, I will start. One day, when I have more money, I will take the risk. One day, when I have more time, I will pursue my passion. This one day is a fantasy land, a psychological safety valve that allows us to hold on to our dreams without ever having to face the terrifying vulnerability of starting today as we are, with what we have. It is a promise we make to ourselves with no intention of keeping it. And it is the quiet, respectable graveyard where most human potential is buried. The core message, the truth that can shatter this trap, is this: the perfect moment is a ghost. It does not exist. Stop waiting for it. You are waiting to feel ready. Let this truth land with its full force. You will never feel ready. Not completely. The feeling of readiness is not a prerequisite for starting. It is a consequence of starting. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in the presence of fear. In the same way, readiness is not the absence of doubt, but the willingness to take the first step while still feeling unprepared. So, where does our principle of non-action fit into this? It seems contradictory, but it is not. In this context, non-action means the disciplined stopping of the useless, frantic action of over-preparing. It is the non-action of closing the 20 browser tabs, of putting the 5th book on the subject back on the shelf, of silencing the inner committee that is debating 1,000 hypothetical scenarios. It is the act of creating a moment of stillness, not to avoid action, but to hear a deeper signal. In that quiet, you must listen for the subtle, intuitive voice that says, "You have enough." You have enough for the first step. Not the whole journey, just the first step. Go now. True, potent action is born from this quiet, intuitive certainty, not from the noisy panic of the planning mind. Imagine a magnificent ship, moored in a calm harbor. Her hull is strong, her sails are perfectly mended, and her storehouses are filled with provisions. Her captain and crew are the most diligent in the world. Every day they are busy. They polish the brass until it gleams. They check and recheck the rigging. They study ancient maps and debate the optimal route to a distant land. They are masters of preparation. But there is a tragedy at the heart of this scene. The ship never leaves the harbor. It was built for the vastness of the ocean, for the challenge of the storm and the guidance of the stars. But it has become a museum of its own potential, slowly and safely rotting in the stagnant water of the port. That ship is your dream. It is your great idea. It is your unwritten book, your unlaunched project, your unspoken truth. And you are its captain, keeping it safe in the harbor of endless preparation, terrified of the unpredictable majesty of the sea for which it was built. The antidote to this paralysis is not a grand, heroic leap, but a humble, manageable step. It is the principle of the minimum viable action, or MVA. You must forget the chasm. Forget the entire journey. Your only concern is the very next stone you can place at your feet. An MVA is an action so small, so simple, so non-intimidating that your perfectionist mind cannot raise a valid objection. It is too small to fail at. You want to write a novel? Your MVA is not to create a detailed character Bible or a 50-page outline. Your MVA is to open a new document and write one sentence. Just one true sentence that comes to you right now. You want to start a podcast? Your MVA is not to research the best microphones for 3 weeks. Your MVA is to take out your phone, open the voice memo app, and talk for 2 minutes about something you care about. You want to change your career? Your MVA is not to rewrite your entire resume. It is to send a single email to one person in a field that interests you, asking them one question about their work. Do you see the power in this? An MVA is not about the outcome. It is about breaking the spell of inertia. It is about generating a tiny spark of momentum. Action creates clarity. You will not discover what your book is truly about by outlining it. You will discover it by writing it. You will not know if your business idea is viable by planning it. You will know by talking to a potential customer. The path is not revealed by staring at the map. The path is made by walking. So, right now, quiet the planners and the critics. What is the smallest, most laughably simple step you can take toward your harbor-bound ship? Do that. Do it now. And feel the profound liberation of a vessel that finally, after all this time, begins to move. Look at your hands. Metaphorically or even literally, look at the way you hold your life. For many of us, it is a white-knuckled grip. Feel the tension in the fingers, the ache that radiates up the forearm, the subtle clenching in the jaw that mirrors the clenching of the will. We are holding on for dear life, gripping the steering wheel of our existence through a storm that never seems to end. We believe, on a fundamental level, that the sheer force of our grip is the only thing keeping us from skidding off the road into oblivion. We believe that our constant, strenuous effort is what holds our world together. This section is an invitation to gently, courageously begin to loosen that grip. It is an invitation to consider a terrifying but liberating possibility, that the desperate holding on is not what is saving you. It is what is exhausting you. It is the very source of your suffering. This deep-seated need to control is a direct function of the ego, the mind's inner micromanager. The ego is terrified of the unknown. It abhors uncertainty. Its primary function is to create a predictable, manageable map of reality where its own survival is guaranteed. It wants the world to be a simple, linear equation where a specific effort always produces a specific result. And so, it invests enormous energy in trying to control things that are, by their very nature, uncontrollable. We try to control the opinions others have of us. We try to control the rise and fall of the market. We try to control the timing of love and the eventuality of loss. We try to manage and manipulate every variable, believing that if we are just smart enough, just strategic enough, just forceful enough, we can bend reality to our will. This is the grand project of the ego, and it is a project doomed to fail, for life is not a tidy equation. It is a wild, chaotic, and beautiful force that will not be tamed by the anxieties of a single human mind. Our suffering arises from a critical confusion between our actions and their outcomes. We have been conditioned to believe they are inextricably linked, that one is a direct payment for the other. We pour our heart and soul into a project, So we demand success as our rightful wage. We love someone with all our being, so we demand their eternal love in return. When the universe does not comply, when the project fails, when the love ends, we do not see it as a natural unfolding of a complex system. We see it as a personal betrayal. We feel that we have been cheated. We become angry, bitter, and disillusioned, not because of the event itself, but because the event invalidated our core belief that we are in control. The truth is this: you have absolute dominion over your intentions and your actions. You have very little control over the results. The space between your action and its outcome is filled with a billion other variables: timing, luck, the free will of others, the hidden currents of circumstance. To demand a specific outcome is to declare war on this entire, vast complexity. It is an unwinnable war. This impulse to control keeps us living in a phantom future, a mental landscape populated by an endless series of what-ifs. What if I lose my job? What if I make the wrong decision? What if they reject me? What if I get sick? This constant projection of potential disasters fuels the desperate need to fortify, to plan for every contingency, to build a fortress of control around our lives. But life, by its very nature, is vulnerable. It cannot be threat-proofed. The attempt to do so is to sentence yourself to a life lived in a bunker, a life of permanent, low-grade anxiety, where you are constantly scanning the horizon for the next threat. There is a weary, exhausted part of every soul that longs to surrender this fight. It longs to put down the heavy burden of control and simply trust the process. But this longing is immediately met by a primal, deeply ingrained fear. If I let go, I will be swept away. If I stop forcing things, my life will fall apart. If I release my grip, I will drown. We are caught between the soul's profound desire for flow and the ego's mortal terror of losing its footing. We crave the release of surrender, but we are addicted to the illusion of certainty. This is where we must introduce a new metaphor, a new way of seeing our journey. For too long, you have seen your life as a battle. Now, see it as a river. Life is a great, powerful, and relentless river, and you are in a small boat. Up until now, you have been trying to row upstream, against the full force of the current. You have set a destination in your mind, a spot directly upriver, and you have been straining with all your might, your muscles burning, your spirit weary, to get there. You may even make some progress, inch by agonizing inch, through sheer heroic effort. But look honestly at the cost. Look at the exhaustion, and understand this: the river will always be stronger. It will always be moving downstream. This is not a pessimistic truth. It is a profoundly liberating one. It is the universe giving you permission to stop fighting a battle you were never meant to win. Letting go of the oars does not mean abandoning your boat to be smashed against the rocks. It is not an act of passive resignation. It is an act of supreme intelligence. It means you stop trying to power the boat against the current, and you instead pick up the rudder. Do you see the critical difference? Oars are for propulsion, for forcing a direction through brute strength. A rudder is for guidance. It uses the river's own power, its own momentum, to subtly steer your vessel. It is the art of navigation, not domination. It is a partnership. You may still have a destination in mind, a peaceful cove further down the river, but you become flexible about the exact path. You learn to read the currents. You learn to work with the immense power of life, not against it. You stop trying to be the engine, and you start becoming the navigator. Imagine you fall into a swift-moving current. The panicked, untrained instinct is to thrash wildly, to fight the water, to try and climb it as if it were a ladder. This desperate struggle constricts the muscles, burns precious oxygen, and, ironically, causes you to sink faster. The experienced swimmer knows the secret. They do not fight the river's power, they surrender to it. They consciously relax their body, turn onto their back, and allow the natural buoyancy of the water to hold them up. They float. In that moment of surrender, They have not given up. They have aligned themselves with a greater force. They are safe. Only from this state of relaxed, trusting buoyancy can they then begin to make small, intelligent, and efficient movements with their hands and feet, not fighting the current, but using it to angle themselves gently toward the safety of the shore. This is the practice you must now cultivate, the practice of intentional detachment, of learning to float. It has 3 parts. First, you set a clear intention. Before an important action, define your goal. My intention is to express my truth with clarity and compassion in this conversation. Or, my intention is to pour all of my focus and creativity into this work for the next 2 hours. Your power lies in the clarity of your intention. Second, you act with full presence and commitment. You do your part. You wield the rudder with skill. You prepare for the conversation. You focus on the work. You give it your all. You are not passive. You are fully engaged in the action. Third, and this is the most crucial and liberating step, you consciously release the outcome. The moment the action is complete, the conversation is over. The work is submitted. You must mentally and emotionally open your hands and let the result go. Visualize it as a small leaf, placing it on the surface of the river and watching it float away, down a stream you cannot see or control. You have done your part. The result now belongs to the river. Whatever comes back to you, praise or blame, success or failure, is no longer a verdict on your self-worth. It is simply feedback. It is information from the river. It is a lesson. If the outcome was not what you hoped, you do not despair. You ask, what is this teaching me? Where is the current stronger than I thought? Is there another way? You adjust your rudder and continue your journey. By untangling your sense of self from the unpredictable outcomes of life, you become fearless. You are free to act boldly, to love deeply, to create passionately, because you are no longer terrorized by the results. You have found the profound and unshakable peace of the swimmer who has learned at last how to let the water hold them up. We live our lives under the grand illusion of direct experience. We believe our eyes are clear windows, our ears impartial receivers, that we are taking in the world as it truly is. But you are not looking through a window. You are looking into a mirror. Every experience, every conversation, every sunrise, every insult is first filtered through the complex and often troubled medium of your own mind before you are even aware of it. And the state of that mirror determines the nature of the world you inhabit. For most of us, for most of our lives, the mirror is not a polished, placid surface. It is a carnival relic, a funhouse mirror. It is warped by the heat of past traumas, clouded by the steam of present anxieties, smudged with the fingerprints of our deepest insecurities. It bends and stretches reality, elongating slights, shrinking compliments, and reflecting a monstrous version of our own fear back at us, which we then mistake for the world. This is the source of so much human suffering. We spend our lives reacting furiously to distorted reflections, believing them to be objective reality. An innocent, offhand comment from a colleague passes through the warp of our insecurity and is reflected back as a calculated, vicious attack on our competence. A partner's quiet mood, born of their own private struggles, passes through the crack of our old abandonment wounds and is reflected back as proof that they no longer love us. We then react to the attack that never happened. We start a fight based on the rejection that was never intended. We are living in a feedback loop with our own distorted consciousness, shadowboxing with ghosts projected from within. And the most tragic part? We blame the world for the state of our mirror. We scream at the reflection, trying to command it to be different. We spend our precious life energy trying to straighten out a distorted image, never realizing that the work is not to be done on the image, but on the glass itself. This flawed perception is the ego's primary operating system. The ego cannot exist as a neutral observer. Its very survival depends on narrative. It must be the main character, the hero or the victim, in every scene. Therefore, it must interpret every event through the lens of, what does this mean for me? An event is never just an event. It is either for me or against me. A person is never just a person. They are either an admirer or a threat. This constant, self-referential filtering is what coats the mirror in a thick, greasy film. It adds a layer of personal story to every raw perception, contaminating the data before it even reaches our awareness. We are not seeing the world. We are seeing the world's commentary on ourselves, a commentary written in a language of fear, desire, and pride. We become hypersensitive, easily offended, perpetually on the defensive, because we are no longer responding to external reality, but to the threatening narratives our own mind is feeding us. This creates a deep and painful internal conflict. On one hand, there is the powerful, immediate, and utterly convincing emotional reaction to the distorted image. The anger feels real. The hurt feels justified. The impulse to blame, to defend, to attack feels like a righteous imperative. It screams, "They did this to me. They are the problem. Fix them." This voice is loud, insistent, and validated by a lifetime of habit. But on the other hand, a quieter, more subtle intelligence sometimes whispers from the depths. It is a small, sane voice that tentatively asks, "Is that really true? Is it possible you are misunderstanding? What if your reaction is out of proportion to the event? What if the problem is not the face in the mirror, but the mirror itself?" To listen to this second voice feels like a betrayal of our own feelings. It feels like letting the other person off the hook. It requires a level of humility and courage that the ego finds profoundly threatening. And so we are torn between the intoxicating certainty of blame and the terrifying responsibility of self-inquiry. We crave the peace that would come from a clear reflection, yet we are addicted to the drama created by the distortions. The core message, the single ray of light that can cut through this confusion, is this: the only person who can clean your mirror is you. The path to peace is not found in demanding that the world present you with a more pleasing reflection. It is found in the quiet, diligent, and often uncomfortable work of polishing the glass of your own perception. This is an act of profound non-action in the external world. It is the refusal to immediately act upon the distorted image. It is the disciplined pause where you consciously withdraw your energy from blaming the reflection and turn it inward to examine the mirror. This is the ultimate act of taking power back. As long as you believe others have the power to make you feel angry or sad, you are their puppet. You have handed the strings of your emotional life over to the unpredictable and uncontrollable behavior of the outside world. But the moment you realize that external events are merely triggers and that the source of the emotion is the state of your own mind, you reclaim your sovereignty. You become the master of your own inner kingdom. Imagine the mirror itself. A perfect mirror has no opinion. It has no memory. It does not judge the face it reflects. It reflects the storm cloud with the same impartial stillness as it reflects the sun. When the face is gone, the reflection is gone. It does not hold on to the image, clinging to it, resenting it, wishing it were different. It simply reflects what is, as it is, and then lets it go. This is the quality we seek to cultivate in our own consciousness. It is not a cold detachment, but a luminous, spacious clarity. It is the ability to see things as they are, free from the heavy, distorting filter of our personal history and emotional reactivity. So how do we practice this? How do we begin the patient work of polishing the glass? The practice begins the moment you feel a strong negative emotional charge, and surge of anger, a sting of jealousy, a wave of profound irritation. In that moment, your mirror is flashing a warning light. It is telling you, distortion detected. Here is the work. Instead of immediately projecting your focus outward onto the person or situation that you believe caused the feeling, you must perform a radical pivot. You must turn your attention 180 degrees inward. You must put the external world on hold for a moment. You pause, you take a breath, and you ask the transformative question, What is this powerful emotion revealing about the state of my mirror rather than the state of the world? Let's make this practical. Your boss gives you some feedback on a project that you perceive as critical. An immediate flare of anger and defensiveness erupts. This is the moment of choice. The old way is to act on the reflection, to argue, to sulk, to spend the rest of the day composing bitter mental monologues about your boss's incompetence. This is polishing the reflection. The new way is to practice non-action. You pause. You feel the heat of the anger in your body. You acknowledge it without judgment. And you ask the question, what is this anger showing me about my mirror? It's touching a deep insecurity about not being good enough. It's scraping against an old wound related to authority figures. The intensity of my reaction is about my history, my fears. In that moment of insight, the entire dynamic shifts. Your boss is no longer the villain who attacked you. They are simply a person who held up a piece of information that happened to illuminate a crack in your own mirror. The situation has transformed from a personal attack into a valuable opportunity for self-knowledge. You have not suppressed the anger. You have used its energy as a diagnostic tool. From this place of clarity, your subsequent action, if any is needed, will be infinitely wiser. You might go back to your boss later and say, "Thank you for the feedback. I had a strong initial reaction, but having thought about it, I see some value in what you said." This is an action born from a clear mirror, and it leads to connection and growth, not conflict. This is the great work. Every irritation, every offense, every moment of judgment is an invitation. It is the universe handing you a polishing cloth and lovingly pointing to a smudge on your own glass. And with each gentle wipe, with each moment of courageous self-inquiry, the world you see becomes clearer, brighter, and infinitely more peaceful. We have spoken of the mind as a reflective surface, a mirror that can be distorted by the smudges of our own inner state. But what happens when the reflection is not just a smudge, but a storm? What happens when the world presents us with true turbulence, with loss, with conflict, with fear? Our tendency is to become the storm. Our peace is shattered by a harsh word. Our stability is upended by bad news. Our joy is stolen by the moodiness of another. Our inner world becomes a direct and chaotic reflection of the outer world. We live in a state of profound vulnerability. Our sense of self is fragile and changeable as a single leaf, tossed and turned in a relentless wind, believing that this frantic, powerless tumbling is simply the nature of existence. This is the weakness born from a mistaken identity, from the belief that we are the weather and not something far greater, far stronger, and far more permanent. This state of being, this constant reactivity, is a form of outsourcing. We have outsourced our well-being to the unpredictable and uncontrollable chaos of the world. We have handed the remote control for our emotions to our boss, our partner, our children, and even to strangers on the internet. We grant them the power to dictate our inner peace. In doing so, we become fundamentally powerless, trapped in an exhausting and impossible project. The project of trying to manage the entire world, of trying to arrange every person and every circumstance so that they do not disturb our fragile inner state. We become porous, absorbing the anxiety of a room, vibrating in sympathetic resonance with the collective panic of a news cycle. Our nervous systems, wired for survival, have developed deep, well-worn grooves of immediate reaction. A trigger occurs, a sudden noise, a critical tone of voice, and an ancient alarm bell rings, flooding our bodies with the chemistry of fear or anger before our conscious mind has even had a chance to assess the situation. We are living on autopilot, ruled by reflexes, perpetually thrown off balance by a world we cannot control. And yet, deep within us, there is a profound yearning for equanimity. We admire it in others. We long for it in ourselves. We dream of being the calm center of the storm, the one who can hold a steady presence in a crisis, who can offer comfort not through frantic action, but through an unshakable inner peace. We aspire to a state of being that is not thrown into disarray by the daily tempests of life. But this noble aspiration is often in direct conflict with a more primal, and in some ways, more seductive part of ourselves. The part that is addicted to the drama. There is an intensity, a rush of life force, in the highs and lows of emotion. The surge of righteousness in anger can feel powerful. The profound depths of sorrow can feel meaningful. To a mind accustomed to this constant emotional weather, a state of calm can feel empty, boring, or flat. This is the core conflict, the soul's deep desire for the enduring peace of the mountain versus the ego's addiction to the thrilling, ephemeral intensity of the storm. To choose peace, we must be willing to let go of the drama. We must be willing to find our strength, not in the flash of lightning, but in the silent, unmoving stone. The path forward requires a radical and fundamental shift in your sense of self. You must reclaim your true identity. Let this truth settle into you, not as a concept, but as a felt reality. You are not the weather, you are the mountain. You have been identifying with the passing clouds, the fleeting rain, the temporary winds, when your true nature is the immense, unshakable, and enduring mountain itself. Picture this mountain. Its base is rooted deep in the core of the earth, drawing stability from the very heart of being. Its peak reaches for the sky, a silent witness to the endless unfolding of time. The mountain is not immune to the weather. It experiences it, fully and intimately. The gentle warmth of the spring sun bathes its slopes. The violent thunderstorms of summer lash it with wind and rain. The melancholy mists of autumn drift through its valleys. The deep, heavy snows of winter blanket it in a profound and silent cold. The weather is constantly changing. One moment beautiful, the next terrifying. But through it all, the mountain remains. It does not become the storm. It does not try to hold on to the sunlight. It does not resent the snow. It simply allows the weather to happen, to pass over and through it, without ever losing its fundamental, unshakable sense of self. Its strength lies not in resistance, but in its immense, grounded presence. The weather is the content of your life, your thoughts, your emotions, the events that happen to you. You are the mountain, the vast, silent, conscious presence that witnesses it all. How does a mountain remain so steadfast? It is anchored. Its very substance is fused with the deep, gravitational core of the planet. To cultivate this same stability within yourself, you too must learn to drop an anchor. When the winds of life begin to howl, when the storms of emotion threaten to sweep you away, you must have a practice that can root you in the present moment, that can connect you to something more solid and real than the swirling chaos in your mind. This anchor is not metaphorical, it is physical. It is found in the simple, undeniable reality of your own body, here and now. Here is the practice of dropping anchor. The first step is awareness. You must become a skilled inner meteorologist, learning to notice the first signs of a storm. You feel that familiar tightening in your chest, the heat rising in your face, the quickening of your pulse. You notice the winds of anxious thoughts beginning to pick up speed. This is your signal. This is the moment to act, not by engaging the storm, but by grounding yourself against it. The second step is to immediately drop anchor. Instead of following the thoughts into their dramatic narrative, this is a disaster. He always does this. I can't handle this. You must decisively shift your attention from the story in your head to a direct, physical sensation in your body. You have two primary anchors, always available to you. The first is the breath. Bring your full, undivided attention to the physical sensation of the air moving in and out of your body. Feel the coolness of the air as it enters your nostrils. Feel the gentle expansion of your chest and belly. Feel the warmth of the air as it leaves your body. Do not try to control your breath or change it in any way. Simply observe it. The breath is the perfect anchor because it is always in the present moment. You cannot breathe in the past or in the future. By focusing on it, you anchor yourself to the reality of the now, pulling your attention out of the phantom futures and remembered pasts where the storm lives. The second anchor is the feeling of your body itself, particularly your connection to the earth. Bring your full attention to the soles of your feet on the floor. Feel the texture of your socks, the gentle pressure in your shoes. Feel the solid, unmoving presence of the ground beneath you. Feel the pull of gravity, a constant, reassuring force that holds you here. The earth is supporting you completely. This sensation is real. It is solid. It is happening right now. The story in your head is a fabrication. The feeling of the ground beneath your feet is a truth. Anchor yourself in that truth. The third step is to ride out the storm. Your entire task, for a few moments or a few minutes, is to keep the majority of your attention on your chosen anchor while the storm of emotion and thought rages around you. The winds of angry thoughts will howl for your attention. The rains of fear will try to soak you. The lightning flashes of panic will try to startle you. Do not fight them. Do not try to push them away. You are the mountain. You let the weather happen. You simply keep your focus on your anchor, on the feeling of your breath, on the solidity of your feet. You are allowing the storm to pass through you, not become you. And the storm will always pass. No emotional state is permanent. As you hold steady, anchored in your body, the intensity will begin to subside. The winds will calm. The rain will lessen. And you will find that you are still there, unbroken, unmoved. You have witnessed the storm. You have felt its full force, but you have not been swept away. Each time you practice this, you are carving a new neural pathway. You are building the psychic muscle of resilience. You are deepening the felt sense of your own mountain-like nature. Your stability will cease to depend on a life free of storms. You will find your peace not in the absence of weather, but in the discovery of the unshakable mountain within. Our world has become a screaming marketplace of information, a cacophony of more. We wake to the siren song of notifications. We work to the relentless drumbeat of emails, and we relax to the endless chatter of podcasts and streaming services. We are obsessed with the accumulation of notes. We operate under the deep, unexamined assumption that the answer to our dissatisfaction lies in the next article, the next book, the next piece of expert advice. We believe that if we can just consume enough information, if we can gather enough data points, we will finally assemble the secret map that leads to wisdom and peace. But we are drowning in notes while remaining deaf to the music. We have forgotten that the most profound truths are not found in the noise, but in the silence from which all noise is born and to which it must return. This compulsive need to fill every available space with sound and activity stems from a primal fear, a kind of psychological horror vacui, a terror of the empty space. A pause in a conversation feels like a failure of connection that must be immediately filled with chatter. A moment of downtime between tasks feels like a void of unproductivity that must be plugged with a quick scroll through a social media feed. We use noise as a shield, a constant barrage of external stimuli to protect us from an encounter with what lies within the silence. For it is in the silence that the difficult, unanswered questions of our lives reside. It is in the silence that the quiet, insistent voice of our own intuition tries to make itself heard. It is in the silence that we may be forced to confront our own loneliness, our own boredom, our own gnawing sense of purposelessness. Noise is a powerful and socially acceptable anesthetic, a way to keep ourselves perpetually distracted from the deeply intimate and sometimes uncomfortable work of knowing ourselves. We have come to fatally confuse the gathering of information with the cultivation of wisdom. Information is the collection of individual notes, the memorization of facts, the accumulation of data. Wisdom is the perception of the underlying music. You can study the chemical composition of paint for a lifetime and never be moved by a masterpiece. You can memorize every line of a poem and never feel its heartbreak. Information is a function of the intellect. It is about knowing about something. Wisdom is a function of the soul. It is about knowing something from the inside out. This deeper knowing does not happen in the frantic acquisition of more notes. It happens in the quiet spaces of reflection, in the moments of spacious contemplation where the scattered notes can finally arrange themselves into a meaningful melody. We are overfed with information and starved of the silence required to digest it into wisdom. This creates an internal conflict between a compulsive, surface-level habit and a deep, soul-level longing. There is a part of us that acts like an anxious host, terrified of a lull in the party, rushing to turn up the music, to keep the conversation going, to ensure every moment is filled. This is the part that cannot drive in silence, that cannot stand in a line without a screen, that feels a rising panic when the Wi-Fi goes out. It is the compulsive filler of space. But beneath that frantic activity, there is a deeper part of us that yearns for depth, for meaning, for the genuine connection that is drowned out by the constant noise. We know, intuitively, that the clarity we seek will not be found in the next podcast, but we are afraid of what we might discover if we turn it off. What if the silence reveals that the life we have so carefully constructed is not actually fulfilling? What if the quiet allows us to hear how lonely we truly are? The conflict is between the comfortable, known distraction of noise and the potentially uncomfortable, but ultimately liberating truth of silence. The core message, the key to resolving this conflict, lies in the architecture of music itself. Imagine a symphony that was composed only of notes, played one after another in a relentless, unbroken stream of sound. It would not be music. It would be an assault, an unbearable and meaningless wall of noise. What gives music its power, its emotion, its very structure, is the silence between the notes. The technical term is a rest. It is in the rest that rhythm is born. It is in the rest that a chord has time to resonate, to fill the space, to land in the listener's heart. It is the rest that builds tension before a crescendo and provides release after a climax. The silence is not an absence of music. The silence is a fundamental component of the music. It is the empty space in a cathedral that gives the arches their grandeur. It is the unpainted part of the canvas that gives the subject its form. The silence gives shape and meaning to the sound. Our lives have become that wall of sound. Our doing, our speaking, our planning, our consuming, these are our notes. We have forgotten the profound importance of the rests, the pause before we answer a question, allowing a more thoughtful response to emerge, the moment of quiet reflection at the end of the day, allowing the experiences to settle and integrate, the shared silence between two people, which can hold a far deeper intimacy than an hour of chatter. These silences are not empty. They are pregnant with potential. They are the fertile ground where understanding grows, where insight dawns, and where we can finally begin to hear the subtle melody of our own lives. To cultivate this, we must engage in a practice that is a direct antidote to our modern affliction. We must practice the art of silent walking. First, consider the typical modern walk. Headphones firmly in place, a podcast or audiobook piping information directly into the brain, the mind a million miles away from the body and its surroundings. We are moving through a landscape, but we are not present to it. We are using the act of walking as yet another opportunity to consume, to fill the space. The practice of silent walking is an act of radical renunciation. Dedicate a period of time. 20 minutes is a perfect start to this practice. The intention is simple: to walk in silence and to listen. This is a walk of subtraction. You must leave the digital pacifiers behind. The phone is silenced and put away. The headphones remain at home. You renounce the comfort and distraction of the external voice. As you begin to walk, your first task is to shift your awareness from your usual internal monologue of thinking and planning to a state of pure, receptive listening. But what are you listening for? You listen in layers. First, practice outer listening. Listen to the symphony of the world around you, the sound of your footsteps on the gravel path or the city pavement. the crisp rustle of leaves stirred by the wind, the distant, lonely call of a bird, the low hum of traffic. Do not label these sounds as good or bad, pleasant or annoying. Simply receive them as pure sensation. They are the notes of the world's orchestra. Second, practice inner listening. Turn your attention inside your own body. Listen to the quiet rhythm of your own breathing. Can you hear the faint beat of your own heart? Feel the subtle symphony of your muscles and joints working in harmony. You are a living, breathing instrument. Finally, and most profoundly, begin to listen for the silence itself. Listen for the space around the sounds, the vast quiet from which the bird's call emerges and into which it fades, the pause between your exhalation and your next inhalation, the stillness that holds the entire soundscape. You will come to discover that this silence is not an emptiness. It is a vast, alive, and vibrant presence. It is the canvas upon which all the notes of the world are painted. At first, this practice may feel intensely uncomfortable. Your mind, starved of its usual diet of distraction, may scream and rebel. It will try to fill the silence with worries, with plans, with an endless stream of chatter. This is normal. Your job is not to fight the chatter, but to simply keep returning your attention, gently but firmly, to the act of listening. Persist. If you do, something remarkable will begin to happen. A sense of deep connection with the world around you will blossom. You will start to notice details you never saw before. Ideas and insights will arise, seemingly from nowhere, because you have finally created the quiet space for them to be heard. You will return from your walk feeling not just physically exercised, but spiritually restored. You have been listening to the notes of the world, but more importantly, you have been listening to the silence that holds them. And it is in that silence that you will finally begin to hear the quiet, authentic music of your own soul. We are the children of the Industrial Revolution, and we have applied the brutal logic of the factory to the delicate ecosystem of the human soul. We believe in perpetual motion, in endless growth, in a bottom line that must always trend upward. We treat our minds like machines that must never be shut down, our creativity like a production line that must never halt, our energy like an infinite resource to be endlessly mined. We have forgotten that we are not made of steel and gears. We are made of earth and water, of starlight and breath. We are not machines, we are gardens. And we have forgotten the most fundamental law of all living things, the sacred and non-negotiable rhythm of cycles, the cycle of action and rest, of sowing and reaping, of expression and integration. We have erased the holy pause, and in doing so, we are creating a generation of beautifully intricate machines on the verge of breaking down. Our culture of relentless productivity has taught us to see rest not as a necessity, but as a weakness, a luxury, a form of theft from our own potential. We speak of the grind, and we wear our exhaustion like a martyr's crown. The darker the circles under our eyes, the more committed we must be. We have internalized the voice of the foreman, a cruel inner critic that whips us forward, demanding more output, more efficiency. We look at a moment of unscheduled time and see not an opportunity for restoration, but a void that must be filled with productive activity. This relentless pressure to perform, to create, to innovate, does not lead to a greater harvest. It leads to depleted soil. It leads to the quiet, creeping desertification of the soul. We feel it, this inner barrenness. We feel the wellspring of our ideas run dry. We feel the enthusiasm we once had for our work curdle into a dull, joyless obligation. We try to solve this problem with the same logic that created it. We try to optimize our burnout. We read articles on biohacking our energy. We listen to podcasts on high-performance habits. We schedule our leisure time with the same ruthless efficiency as our work, hoping to find the perfect formula that will allow us to run the machine just a little bit harder, a little bit longer, before it finally seizes up completely. This is the internal conflict that defines our age. A deep, organismic exhaustion pulling us towards stillness, versus a frantic, conditioned belief that to stop is to fail. It is the cry of our very cells for regeneration, pitted against the roar of a world that tells us we are not doing enough. "I am so tired," the soul whispers. "Just work smarter," the mind retorts. "I have no new ideas," the creative spirit sighs. "Just consume more content for inspiration," the culture commands. We are caught in this impossible bind, trying to squeeze water from a stone, trying to force a harvest from a field that has been stripped of all its nutrients. We fail to understand that creativity and insight are not products we can manufacture on demand. They are wildflowers. They grow not because they are forced, but because the conditions are right. They emerge from a soil that is rich, rested, and alive. Our constant activity, our endless consumption of information, our refusal to ever be still, is the equivalent of paving over the entire garden with concrete. Nothing can grow there. To find our way out of this desert, we must look to an ancient wisdom that predates the factory by millennia. We must look to the wisdom of the earth, to the wisdom of the farmer. A wise farmer understands a truth that our modern world has completely forgotten: the law of the fallow field. After a season of intense cultivation and harvest, a farmer does not immediately sow the same field again. To do so would be an act of profound ignorance. He knows that the soil, having given its life force to produce a crop, is now depleted. It is tired. It needs to rest. And so, he makes a conscious, deliberate choice to let that field lie fallow. For an entire season, he asks nothing of it. He does not plant seeds. He does not add fertilizer. He does not plow its surface. He simply lets it be. To the untrained eye of the modern efficiency expert, this fallow field looks like a waste. It is unproductive land. It is a failure of optimization. But to the farmer, it is an act of supreme wisdom and foresight. It is an investment in all future harvests. For the fallow field is not dead. It is not empty. It is engaged in a deep, mysterious, and vital form of work. In its quiet stillness, it is healing. It is drawing down the light of the sun and the rain from the sky. Complex microbial life, the very soul of the soil, is regenerating, breaking down old matter, creating new nutrients. The earth is composting the remnants of the past season, transforming what is dead into the building blocks of future life. It is a period of invisible integration, of silent alchemy. It is gathering its strength. The farmer knows that a field that has been allowed to lie fallow will produce a far more abundant, more resilient, and more vibrant crop in the following year than a field that has been relentlessly exploited. Your mind, your heart, your spirit, they are this field. The periods of intense work, of social engagement, of creative output, these are your harvest seasons. And the periods of burnout, of creative block, of emotional exhaustion, these are the signs of depleted soil. The wisdom of non-action, in this context, is the courage to declare a fallow season for your own soul. It is the brave and countercultural act of intentionally stepping back from the demand for productivity and allowing yourself to simply be. This is not laziness. It is not apathy. It is a sacred and active process of regeneration. A fallow mind is not an empty mind. It is a mind that is finally being given the space to process, to integrate, to make novel connections between old ideas. It is composting your experiences into wisdom. It is in these fallow periods that the quiet, subconscious work of insight happens. It is where your truest, most original ideas will be born, not because you hunted for them, but because you created the rich, rested soil from which they could spontaneously emerge. The practice, then, is to consciously schedule fallow time. This is a radical act in a world that worships the calendar. You must schedule nothing. You must take your calendar and draw a sacred empty box in it. An afternoon, a full day, maybe even a whole weekend. And in that box you write a single word: fallow. During this time, you have one rule. You are not allowed to have a goal. You are not to try and be productive. You are not to try and catch up on things. You are certainly not to try and optimize your rest. Your purpose is to be purposeless. Perhaps you will take a walk with no destination. Perhaps you will lie on the grass and watch the clouds, an activity with zero return on investment. Perhaps you will stare out of a window, listen to music, or simply doze in a chair. You allow your mind to wander where it will, like a wild animal released from a cage. You follow its strange and unpredictable path without judgment. You will feel the pull of your conditioning, the itch to check your phone, the guilt of wasting time. Your job is to gently resist that pull, to lovingly remind yourself that you are engaged in the most important work of all, the restoration of your own inner earth. This is the great heresy of our time, to be unproductive on purpose, but it is the path back to a sane and sustainable life. You are not a machine to be driven into the ground. You are a garden to be tended. And the most loving, the most creative, and ultimately the most productive thing you can ever do for your garden is to grant it the grace of a fallow season. Trust in the silent alchemy of stillness. Trust that in the quiet, the nutrients are returning. Trust that by doing nothing, you are preparing the ground for a harvest more beautiful and abundant than anything your frantic forcing could ever produce. We have learned to let our fields lie fallow, to grant ourselves the grace of restorative stillness. But what happens when we have planted a new seed? What happens after we have taken that first, minimum viable action and have begun a new path? A new form of torment arises, a uniquely modern anguish, the agony of impatience. We plant the seed of a new habit on Monday, and by Wednesday we are frantically digging at the soil, demanding to see the sprout. We launch our project, our art, our new way of being into the world, and then we sit, hunched over, relentlessly refreshing the screen of our lives, waiting for the instantaneous validation of likes, of profits, of applause. When it does not come, a cold dread sets in. We mistake the silence of germination for the silence of death. And, in our panic, we either abandon the seed and declare the soil barren, or we continue to poke and prod at it with such anxious energy that we kill the very thing we wish to grow. This profound impatience is not entirely our fault. We have been meticulously trained for it by the world we inhabit. Our society is a grand temple built in worship of instant gratification. We summon food, transportation, and entertainment with the flick of a finger. We communicate across continents in microseconds. We have access to the entire repository of human knowledge in our pockets. We have successfully eliminated friction and waiting from almost every corner of our external lives, and in doing so, we have allowed the crucial inner muscle of patience to atrophy. We have forgotten that the digital world operates on the logic of code, while the world of personal growth, of meaning, and of all things that truly matter operates on the logic of agriculture. You cannot download a harvest. You cannot hack the growth of a soul. Beneath this conditioned impatience lies a deeper, more primal fear, the fear of wasted effort. We look at the patch of earth where we planted our seed, and we see nothing. Days, weeks, maybe even months pass, and the surface remains unchanged. The logical mind, the one that demands proof and evidence, begins to panic. It whispers, "You're a fool. You're watering dead earth. Your effort is for nothing. You are wasting your precious time on a fantasy, while others are planting in more fertile ground and are already reaping their rewards." This voice is convincing because it preys on our deepest insecurities. Our need to check on the seed, to dig it up, is a desperate search for reassurance, a plea to the universe for a sign that we are not wasting our lives. The heartbreaking irony is that this very act of seeking reassurance is what guarantees our failure. It is the anxious pulling on the sprout to make it grow faster. It is the manifestation of a profound lack of faith in the natural process of life itself. This creates an agonizing internal conflict during the inevitable lag time between cause and effect. We have taken the action, we have sowed the seed, and now we must endure the gap, the sacred, terrifying pause where our faith is tested. The mind abhors this gap. It rushes to fill it with doubt, anxiety, and 1,000 compelling reasons to quit. It tells us to change strategies, to try a different seed, to move to a different plot of land. It creates a frantic energy that prevents the quiet, undisturbed darkness that all seeds require to germinate. We are caught between the intellectual understanding that growth takes time and the emotional inability to tolerate the feeling of unseen, unverified progress. To heal this, we must embrace a new story, a new metaphor for growth. We must learn the story of the Chinese bamboo tree. When the farmer plants the seed of this remarkable tree, a test of faith begins. He waters the soil and tends to it every single day. 1 year passes, nothing appears. He continues to water and fertilize the same patch of empty earth. A 2nd year passes, still nothing. A 3rd year, a 4th. 4 years of daily, dedicated labor with absolutely zero visible result. Any rational observer would tell him he is insane. His neighbors might mock him for watering dirt. His own mind must surely be assailed by doubt. This 4-year period is the embodiment of faith. It is the work done without any promise of reward. And then, sometime in the 5th year, a tiny sprout finally breaks through the soil. And in the 6 weeks that follow, the bamboo tree grows to an astonishing 80 feet tall. The critical question is this: did the tree grow 80 feet in 6 weeks, or did it grow in 5 years? The answer, of course, is 5 years. For those first 4 years of seeming inactivity, a miracle was happening beneath the surface. The tree was building a massive, complex, and incredibly strong root system, a foundation powerful enough to support the explosive, sudden growth that was to come. Had the farmer stopped watering in year 2 or year 3, or even in the final month of year 4, the tree would have died. His unseen work, his faith, was the most critical part of the process. This is the story of your own growth. That new business you have started, that difficult skill you are trying to master, that new way of being you are trying to cultivate, it is your bamboo tree. The initial period of high effort and no visible results is not a sign of failure. It is your 4 years in the darkness. It is the time when you are building your root system. You are not just watering the soil, you are forging discipline. You are not just waiting, you are cultivating resilience. You are not just learning facts, you are building a deep, foundational understanding. This invisible, underground work is the most important work you will ever do. To quit during this phase, to give in to the doubt, is to abandon a vast and powerful foundation just moments before the skyscraper is about to break through the ground. You must learn to trust the darkness. You must learn to have faith in the unseen work. You must understand that germination is a private, sacred affair between the seed and the soil, and your anxious gaze is not invited. How can you endure this period of invisibility without losing faith? You must change what you measure. Your mistake is that you are looking for the sprout. You are measuring the outcome, which is unpredictable and not in your control. Instead, you must begin to measure the watering. You must measure the process, the one thing you can control. The practice is this: create an evidence log. Take a simple notebook or a document and title it "The Evidence." Each day, your only task is to record the evidence of your effort, your act of watering the seed, no matter how small. You are not allowed to record outcomes. You only record actions. Instead of asking, "Did I lose any weight?" and feeling despair when the scale doesn't move, you open your evidence log and write, "Today, I went for a 20-minute walk and chose water over soda." Instead of asking, "Is my art selling?" and feeling like a failure when it doesn't, you write, "Today, I spent 1 hour in my studio and finished a new sketch." Instead of asking, "Am I fluent yet?" you write, "Today, I practiced my new language for 15 minutes." Each entry is a log of your faithfulness. It is tangible proof that you are tending to the soil. It is a record of your commitment. This practice rewires your brain. It shifts your source of validation from the fickle external world of results to the solid, dependable inner world of your own actions. During moments of doubt, when you feel like giving up because you see no progress, you can open this log. You can flip through the pages. It is not an empty book. It is a testament to days, weeks, and months of effort. You can see, in your own handwriting, the vast and powerful root system you have been building. The log becomes your proof. It becomes your source of faith. It allows you to say to the doubting mind, "Be silent. I have the evidence. I am doing the work." The seed is not forgotten. And with this faith, born of your own recorded actions, you can continue to water the soil with a calm and patient heart, knowing that the growth is not a matter of if, but when. The sprouting is not a hope. It is a natural law. Your job is not to worry about its timing. Your job is to tend the soil today. We have explored the lands of stillness, of non-action, of patient waiting. But where do these lands exist? They exist in a territory our minds have almost completely abandoned, a place so often overlooked that it has become foreign territory. This is the realm of the present moment. Your mind is a restless and brilliant time traveler. It possesses the incredible ability to journey, in an instant, to anywhere in the vast expanse of your life. But it has two favorite destinations, two phantom realms where it spends almost all of its energy. The first is the past, a dusty museum of grievances and regrets. The second is the future, a terrifying and seductive factory of anxieties and fantasies. While the mind is away on these excursions, life itself real, vibrant, and immediate is happening right here, unnoticed and unlived. And the actions we take, dictated by the ghosts of yesterday or the fears of tomorrow, are inevitably reactive, unwise, and disconnected from the truth of what is. Let us first examine the past. For the undisciplined mind, the past is not a library of lessons. It is a courtroom where old trials are endlessly relitigated. We wander its halls, pulling out old exhibits of pain. We replay arguments in our heads, this time armed with the perfect retort we didn't have then. We obsess over wrong turns, running endless simulations of what if and if only, torturing ourselves with the ghosts of better lives we might have lived. We nurse old wounds, picking at the scabs to ensure they never fully heal, because our grievances have become a part of our identity. To act from this place is to project the shadows of the past onto the present. We mistrust a new partner because an old one was unfaithful. We fear taking a risk because of a failure that happened a decade ago. We are interacting not with the people and situations in front of us, but with the ghosts they resemble. Our actions are echoes, not choices. Then there is the future, a realm of pure fiction that we treat as imminent fact. The mind's future factory works tirelessly, producing elaborate and detailed blueprints for disaster. It constructs catastrophic scenarios of failure, of loss, of embarrassment. And our bodies, in their profound wisdom, cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined threat and a real one. When you spend your day worrying about losing your job, your nervous system responds as if you are already unemployed. When you anxiously anticipate a difficult conversation, your body enters a state of fight or flight long before any words are spoken. To live in the future is to subject your body to a constant, low-grade torture, to marinate your cells in the stress hormones of events that have not happened, and likely never will. Actions born from this anxious state are always controlling, defensive, and short-sighted. We act to prevent our imagined fears, not to create a beautiful reality. We are so busy building fortifications against phantom dragons that we fail to notice the real sunshine warming our face. The great tragedy of this constant mental time travel is that the present moment, the only place where life actually occurs, is treated as a mere inconvenience. It is a dull layover between the familiar pain of the past and the anticipated anxiety of the future. We are never truly here. When we are eating, we are thinking about our next meeting. When we are with our children, we are scrolling through our phones. When we are in conversation, we are planning what we will say next instead of truly listening. Life becomes a series of tasks to be completed, a journey to be endured rather than experienced. But deep down, we feel the loss. There is a quiet sorrow in a life half-lived. There is a conflict between the mind's powerful, ingrained habit of escape and the soul's deep, desperate craving to simply be here, to feel the texture of reality, to taste this one unique, unrepeatable moment of existence. So how do we return from our long exile in the phantom realms of past and future? We do not need a complex machine or a secret map. We have been equipped, since the moment of our birth, with a miraculous and utterly reliable technology for anchoring ourselves in the now. It is the breath. The breath is the most profound and overlooked miracle of our existence. Consider its unique nature. You cannot take a breath that is in the past. It is gone. You cannot take your next breath until it arrives. It is not yet here. You can only ever experience this breath, the one that is happening right now. The breath is, by its very nature, always in the present moment. Therefore, it is the perfect, ever-available portal back to reality. It is the bridge between the wandering mind and the grounded body. Your mind can travel to ancient Rome or to the year 3000, but your body is always, unequivocally, here. Now, by bringing your conscious attention to the physical sensation of breathing, you are gently but firmly taking the hand of your wandering mind and walking it back home to the truth of your body. In that simple act, you sever the chains of anxious thought and land squarely in the center of your life. Think of your mind as a ship being tossed on the violent waves of time. The great, heavy swells are the regrets of the past. The sharp, terrifying, cresting waves are the anxieties of the future. Left to its own devices, the ship is adrift, completely at the mercy of this temporal storm. The breath is your anchor. It is heavy, it is simple, it is real. When you feel the ship beginning to drift, when you feel the storm of thought pulling you into the past or future, your work is to consciously, deliberately, drop the anchor. When the anchor is down, the ship will still rise and fall, with the waves' emotions will still come and go, but it will no longer be carried away. It will hold its position, firmly and securely, in the safe harbor of the here and now. To make this practical, there is a simple, powerful technique you can use anywhere, anytime. It requires no special equipment. You can do it in the middle of a stressful meeting with your eyes open. It is called box breathing, for it has 4 equal sides. It is a way to manually override the autopilot of your anxious nervous system and reclaim conscious control. First, whenever you can, gently exhale all the air from your lungs. Now, we begin the 4 sides of the box. First, inhale slowly and gently through your nose for a steady count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Feel the air filling your lungs. Second, hold that breath at the top without strain for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Feel the stillness, the fullness of life energy held within. Third, exhale slowly and completely through your mouth for a steady count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Feel the release, the letting go. Fourth, hold the breath out at the bottom, the lungs comfortably empty for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Feel the quiet, the pause before life begins again. That is 1 full rotation. That is 1 anchor dropped. Repeat the cycle 3, 4, 5 times. Notice what happens. You cannot be lost in anxious thought while you are consciously counting and breathing. You have given your mind a simple rhythmic task that instantly short-circuits the chaotic loops of worry. You have physically regulated your heart rate, sending a powerful signal from your body back to your brain that says, all is well, you are safe. The threat is not real. You have broken the shallow, rapid breathing pattern of panic and replaced it with the deep, calm rhythm of life itself. This is your emergency brake, This is your pattern interrupt. Use it when you catch yourself replaying an old mistake. Use it when you feel your mind spiraling into a future catastrophe. Use it before you enter a difficult conversation. Use it while you are stuck in traffic. It is the most powerful tool of non-action you possess. It is the act of stopping the frantic, useless action of mental time travel. It is the act of returning. With each conscious breath, you are not just taking in air. You are choosing reality over illusion. You are choosing the peace of the present moment over the suffering of a past that is gone and a future that does not exist. You are coming home. When faced with an obstacle, with a reality that does not conform to our desires, the default human response is to become rigid. We brace for impact. Our mind becomes like a clenched fist, our will like a battering ram, and we hurl ourselves at the unmoving object in our path. We encounter a problem, and we try to smash it. We face a person who disagrees with us, and we try to break their will. We meet a circumstance we do not like, and we try to force it to change through sheer brute effort. This is the way of the ram, an approach born of the belief that the world is a series of walls to be broken down, and that our power is measured by the force of our impact. But look at the result of this approach. The ram returns with a bruised head and a broken spirit, while the stone wall remains, indifferent and unmoved. The source of our suffering is not the wall. It is our insistence on trying to run through it. This rigidity stems from a deep and arrogant attachment to our own plans. We walk through the world carrying a secret mental blueprint of how things should unfold. We have a detailed architectural drawing of our ideal career path, our perfect relationship, our smoothly running day. When reality, in its infinite and untamable complexity, deviates from our blueprint, we do not question the validity of our drawing. Instead, we declare reality to be flawed. We become outraged that the world has failed to conform to our expectations. We are consumed by the language of resistance, a toxic litany of shoulds. This traffic shouldn't be this bad. She should have understood my point of view. This project should be easier. Every should and shouldn't is a declaration of war against what is. It is a violent refusal to accept the reality of the present moment. And this refusal is the very definition of psychological suffering. The energy we waste in this state of resistance is immense. The life force that is burned in the fires of anger, frustration, complaint, and futile effort could have been used to power our journey for miles. Instead, it is spent like the energy of a car spinning its wheels in the mute, tremendous amount of noise, smoke, and stress with zero forward momentum. This creates an internal conflict between the will to power and the wisdom of yielding. There is a part of us, nourished by stories of heroic struggle and conquest, that believes our worth is proven by our ability to dominate circumstances. It is the ego which sees every obstacle as a personal insult and every challenge as a test of its strength. It wants to be the hammer, and it wants the world to be its nail. To yield, to adapt, to find another way, feels like giving up. It feels like weakness. But there is another, quieter part of us, an intuitive wisdom that senses there must be a more intelligent way. It has seen how the mighty oak, rigid and unbending, is snapped in two by the storm, while the humble reed, flexible and yielding, bends with the wind and rises again when the storm has passed. This is the conflict between the Western myth of the heroic fighter and the Eastern wisdom of the water-like sage. It is the struggle between the desire to break the obstacle and the wisdom to flow around it. To resolve this conflict, we must learn from the greatest teacher of this art on the planet. We must learn to become like water. Consider the nature of water. It is the softest, most yielding substance in the world, yet it can wear away the hardest stone. It is patient and persistent. It holds no rigid shape, and so it can adapt itself to any container, any path. When water comes to a great rock blocking its path, it does not rear up and smash itself against the granite in a futile display of force. To do so would be against its nature. Instead, it pauses. It gathers its power, It explores its options. It seeks the path of least resistance. It will flow around the rock, or over the top of it, or find a tiny crack to seep through. In time, it may even dissolve the rock entirely. It always continues its journey to the sea, its purpose undeterred. But it is wise enough not to waste its energy in pointless battles. To become like water is to become a master strategist of your own life. It is not about being passive. It is about channeling your power with such profound intelligence that you achieve your aims with minimum effort and maximum grace. Think of a master of the martial art Aikido. A novice, relying on brute force, will meet a punch with a block, a clash of strength against strength. It is costly and inefficient. The Aikido master, however, embodies the art of flow. When an opponent lunges with a powerful strike, the master does not resist it head-on. That would be foolish. Instead, he yields. He moves with his opponent's momentum, joining with it for a brief, intimate moment. He becomes one with the force moving against him. And then, with a subtle turn of the wrist, a slight shift of his center of gravity, he redirects that very same energy, causing his opponent to be thrown off balance by their own attack. He has won without fighting. He has neutralized a threat by yielding to it, blending with it, and intelligently redirecting it. This is the physical manifestation of becoming like water. This is the practice you must bring to the obstacles in your own life. You must learn to ask the Aikido question. The first step is to recognize when you are being the ram. You feel that familiar tension rising in your body, the clenched jaw, the tight shoulders. You feel the heat of frustration. You hear the mantra of shoulds and shouldn'ts playing in your mind. This is your cue. This is the signal that you are resisting reality. The second step is to pause. Instead of pushing harder, you consciously stop. You take a breath. You have created a sacred space between the obstacle and your reaction. The third step is to ask a new question. The ram's question is always, how do I break this? How can I force this? You must now ask the Aikido question, how can I use this? How can I flow with this? What is the energy of this obstacle, and how can I redirect it? What is the path around, over, or under? Let's make this concrete. A new company policy blocks your project. The ram complains, fights the bureaucracy, and burns out in frustration. The water-like mind pauses and asks the Aikido question, okay, this policy is the new reality. How can I use it? Does it create a new need that my project can now meet? Can I reframe my project to align with this policy, perhaps making it even more essential to the company? Is there a way around it that doesn't require a direct confrontation? You are dealing with a person who is relentlessly negative. The ram tries to argue, to convince them with logic, to prove them wrong. This only makes them dig in their heels. The water-like mind asks, what is the energy behind this negativity? It is likely fear or a feeling of powerlessness. How can I speak to that underlying energy instead of fighting the surface words? Can I validate their feeling, it sounds like this situation is really frustrating for you, before gently redirecting the conversation? By validating, you have joined with their energy. By redirecting, you are acting as the Aikido master. By asking this new kind of question, you fundamentally shift your relationship with life's challenges. You cease to be a victim of your circumstances, and you become their dance partner. You move from a state of enraged impotence to one of creative, fluid problem-solving. Your mind, freed from the tunnel vision of brute force, opens up to a landscape of new possibilities you were blind to before. You conserve your precious life force. You reduce your stress, and you will find, to your astonishment, that you arrive at your goals more gracefully, more effectively, and with your spirit intact. You will have learned the profound and paradoxical strength that is only ever found in the art of yielding. It begins with a small spark, a difference of opinion about a film, a misremembered fact from a shared memory, a conflicting perspective on how to handle a simple task. The air is clear, the connection is open, and then something shifts. a gear grinds. The gentle exchange of ideas transforms into a tense negotiation of reality. The goal is no longer to understand, but to win. The space between you and the other person becomes a battlefield, and the conversation becomes a war. This is the sacred ground of the ego, and the name of its bloody flag is I am right. We have all fought under this banner. We have all sacrificed our peace, our connection, and our precious life energy in its name, often without even realizing we have enlisted in its pointless army. To understand why we fight so tenaciously for the territory of our own rightness, we must understand how deeply the ego has fused our identity with our opinions. When you hold a belief about politics, about art, about the right way to load a dishwasher, you do not experience it as a transient thought that is passing through your consciousness. You experience it as a part of you. It becomes a brick in the fortress of your identity. When someone challenges that belief, you do not perceive it as a neutral examination of an idea. You perceive it as a direct, personal attack on the fortress itself. They are not questioning the brick. They are questioning your intelligence, your competence, your judgment, your very worth. And so, the survival instinct kicks in. The drawbridge comes up, the archers take their positions on the wall, and you prepare for battle. The topic of the argument is now irrelevant. The only thing that matters is the defense of the I. This defense provides a potent, addictive reward. The moment the other person concedes, the moment you force them to admit that your version of reality is correct, the ego receives a jolt of validation. It is a feeling of victory, of superiority, of intellectual power. It is a temporary anesthetic for our underlying insecurities. For a fleeting moment, being right makes us feel secure. We become addicted to this feeling, subconsciously seeking out opportunities to correct others, to win debates, to prove a point, just to get another hit of that validating drug. We become the person who can't let a small inaccuracy in someone's story go uncorrected. We become the person who dominates conversations, not to connect, but to instruct. We become tiresome, because our need to be right has become more important than our ability to be present and to relate. In its most toxic form, this manifests as righteousness, the intoxicating feeling of moral superiority. When we are convinced we are on the right side of an issue, it gives us license to judge, to condemn, and to sever connections, all while feeling perfectly justified in our own virtue. This creates a constant and exhausting internal conflict between the warrior and the peacemaker who live within us all. A disagreement arises, and the inner warrior, the guardian of the ego's fortress, immediately sounds the alarm. Defend yourself, it screams. Do not let them get away with that. Your honor is at stake. You must prove them wrong. This voice is loud, proud, and compelling. But at the same time, the inner peacemaker, the part of you that craves connection and harmony, whispers from a quieter place. Is this really worth it? It asks. Look at the tension in your body. Listen to the anger in your voice. Is winning this point worth the cost to your own inner peace? Is it worth the damage to this relationship? We are torn between the ego's desperate need to protect its status and the soul's deep longing for serenity. We fear that if we let the argument go, we will be perceived as weak, as having submitted. We are trapped in the ego's zero-sum game of win or lose, unable to see that the very act of engaging in the battle is already a loss. In almost every disagreement, you eventually arrive at a crossroads. It is a moment of profound choice. One path is labeled the need to be right. It is a well-trodden, rocky path that often leads to a lonely peak of hollow victory. The other path is labeled the desire for peace. It is a quieter, softer path that leads to a valley of calm connection. You cannot travel both roads at the same time. You must choose. The great illusion is that we believe the first path will bring us satisfaction. We believe that if we can just win this one argument, we will feel good. But the feeling is fleeting, and it comes at the cost of resentment, distance, and a depleted spirit. The revolutionary act is to redefine what it means to win. True victory is not to vanquish your opponent. True victory is to walk away from a pointless battle with your own serenity intact. It is to choose to win the great war for your own inner peace, rather than engaging in every small, ego-driven skirmish. The non-action we speak of here is the powerful, deliberate choice to refuse to play the game. It is the refusal to pick up the sword. This is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. It is a declaration that says, "My inner peace is more valuable than my opinion on this matter. Our connection is more important than my need to be correct." This is not the same as passive agreement. You are not saying they are right. You are simply deciding that the cost of the conflict is too high. You are taking back the power, refusing to allow another person's differing viewpoint to dictate your own emotional state. Imagine you are trying to hold a handful of sand. The sand represents the peace and harmony in a relationship. A disagreement arises, and your instinct is to prove your point, to be right. This is the equivalent of clenching your fist tightly around the sand. You squeeze your argument, you force your logic, you demand that the other person accept your truth. But what happens when you clench your fist around dry sand? The tighter you squeeze, the more rapidly it escapes through the cracks between your fingers. In your very attempt to secure your position, you lose the very thing you truly wanted. The only way to hold the sand is with a gentle, open palm. The only way to preserve peace is to relax your grip on being right. This leads to a simple, practical, and profoundly effective practice. Let us call it the disarming phrase. The first step is to become aware that you have entered the battlefield. You recognize the signs of escalation in yourself. Your heart rate increases, your voice gets a little louder, you feel a tightening in your chest. You have stopped listening and are now just waiting for your turn to speak, to land your next verbal blow. This is your signal. The second step is to use your breath as an anchor. Take one single, conscious breath. This is the micropause that interrupts the reactive momentum. The third step, and this requires courage, is to deploy the disarming phrase. You look at the other person, you pause the battle, and you say, with as much sincerity as you can muster, one of three things. You might be right. Or, that's a really interesting point. I need some time to think about that. Or, I can see why you would feel that way. The effect of these words is almost magical. You have instantly removed the wall that your opponent was pushing against. Their momentum has nowhere to go. Their fight energy dissipates because their opponent has simply vanished from the battlefield. You have disarmed them by refusing to hold a weapon, but more importantly, you have disarmed yourself. You have given your own ego a graceful exit. You have freed yourself from the exhausting obligation to fight to the bitter end. You have chosen the path of peace. This does not mean you are a doormat or that you abandon your principles. It means you are wise enough to distinguish between a discussion and a war. Later, when you are both calm, you can reflect. Sometimes, you will realize that they were, in fact, right. Other times, you will still believe you were right, but you will also recognize that the argument itself was trivial and unimportant. And if the issue is truly significant, you now have the opportunity to revisit it later, not from the combative energy of a battlefield, but from the open, connected space of your shared, peaceful valley. You have saved your energy for the conversations that matter, and you have preserved the most precious resource of all, your own unshakable serenity. Your life is a room. When you were young, the room was spacious and full of light. There was freedom to move, to dance, to dream. But over the years, you have filled it. You have accumulated furniture, a piece here, a piece there, the heavy armchair of an inherited belief you never examined, the cluttered desk of a hobby that once brought you joy but now feels like an obligation, the dusty trunk of old relationships you have outgrown but feel too guilty to discard, the endless array of trinkets and distractions you acquired to fill a moment of boredom or unease. Soon, the room becomes so crowded that there is no longer space to move. The light is blocked by the clutter. To even walk from one side to the other requires a difficult, exhausting navigation around things you no longer love or need. You have become a curator of a museum of your own past, and you have forgotten that the purpose of the room was not to store furniture, but to live. We cling to this clutter for reasons that feel valid but are, upon inspection, illusions. We fall victim to the sunk cost fallacy, believing that because we have invested so much time and energy into a career path that is draining our soul, or a friendship that consistently leaves us feeling empty, we cannot possibly abandon it now. To let go would be to admit that our past investment was a waste, a verdict the ego cannot bear. We also suffer from a deep fear of the void. We are terrified of the empty space that might be left if we let something go. Who will I be if I am not the person who does X? What will I do with my Thursday nights if I quit that committee? We prefer the familiar suffocation of the cluttered room to the frightening, unknown freedom of an empty one. And so we maintain the clutter, we dust the furniture we despise, and we continue to live under the weight of obligations we never truly chose, all to avoid the discomfort of change and the terror of empty space. This creates a painful internal conflict between the part of us that craves comfort and the part of us that cries out for authenticity. The cluttered room, for all its faults, is known. It is predictable. Its misery is familiar. But there is another voice, a deeper calling from the soul itself, that whispers of open fields, of clear sunlight, of a life stripped down to its beautiful, powerful essentials. It is the conflict between the safety of the known cage and the exhilarating terror of the open sky. We know in our bones that our current way of living is draining our life force, but the act of beginning to clear the room feels so overwhelming that we defer it. We tell ourselves, one day, I will end that draining friendship. One day, I will leave this job. One day, I will clear out the garage. We postpone the liberating act of subtraction to a mythical future, all while the clutter continues to consume our precious energy, our time, and our light today. This is where we must understand a new, more dynamic form of non-action. Until now, we have spoken of non-action as a form of stillness, of waiting, of pausing. But there is another form, a non-action that is a blade, a non-action that is a purifying fire. It is the conscious, deliberate, and powerful act of stopping. It is the non-action of refusal. The refusal to continue pouring your life's energy into activities that deplete you. The refusal to keep showing up for relationships that diminish you. The refusal to maintain commitments that are not aligned with your deepest values. This is not passive. It is, perhaps, the most decisive and potent action you can take to reclaim your life. It is the application of a purifying fire to your own existence, a fire that does not destroy but clarifies. For fire burns away all that is superfluous. It reduces things to their essential nature. In the same way, the introspective fire that is kindled in stillness allows you to see with a burning clarity what is truly essential in your life and what is merely dead wood, ready to be released into ash. Think of a master sculptor standing before a great, raw block of marble. A novice might think the sculptor's job is to add something to the stone, to build upon it. The master knows the truth. The masterpiece, the beautiful form of David or the Pietà, is already contained within the stone. His job is not to add, but to subtract. With every sure and skillful chip of the hammer and chisel, he is not creating the form. He is liberating it. He is painstakingly removing everything that is not the statue. He is cutting away the excess, the non-essential, to reveal the truth that was hidden within all along. Your authentic self, the joyful, vibrant, and purposeful being you were born to bathe the statue inside the cluttered block of your current life. Your work is not to add one more skill, one more relationship, one more possession. Your work is to bravely and wisely begin to chip away everything that is not you. To begin this process of sacred subtraction, you must first see the clutter for what it is. You must conduct a life audit. This is a practice of radical honesty. Take a piece of paper and for 1 week, create a detailed inventory of how you spend your time and your energy. List everything without judgment. Your tasks at work, the meetings you attend, the committees you sit on, the social obligations you fulfill, the group chats you participate in, the television shows you watch, the people you spend significant time with. The list will be long and revealing. Now, draw 2 columns next to this list. Title one column, Energizes. Title the other, Drains. Now comes the moment of truth. Go down your list, item by item, and for each one, ask your body, not your mind, a simple question. Does this activity, this person, this commitment genuinely give me life force, or does it take my life force away? Be brutally honest. This is not about what you think should energize you or what looks good on paper. This is about the felt sense. After you engage with this, do you feel lighter, more expansive, more vibrant, or do you feel heavier, smaller, and more depleted? Place a check mark in the appropriate column for every single item. When you are finished, step back and look at the page. This document is a map of your life's energy. You will see, perhaps for the first time, in stark black and white, all the cracks and leaks through which your precious vitality is escaping. You will see the relationships and activities that are like vampires, and you will see the ones that are like suns. The revelation may be shocking, even painful, but it is the necessary first step. Now comes the act of courage. You are not expected to take a sledgehammer to your entire life overnight. That would be overwhelming. Your task is to pick one thing from the drains column. Just one. Perhaps it is a weekly meeting that is a known waste of time. Perhaps it is a social obligation you have been dreading for years. Perhaps it is simply muting a group chat that is a constant source of negativity. Choose one, and now you practice the non-action of fire. For the next month, you stop doing that one thing. You gracefully resign from the committee. You politely decline the invitation. You create a boundary. You make one deliberate, surgical cut. Notice what happens. You will have created a small, empty space in your life. More importantly, you will have plugged a leak. You will have reclaimed a measure of your own energy. This new energy can then be reinvested into an activity from your Energizes column, or it can simply be enjoyed as a moment of peace, a patch of clear floor in your cluttered room. This creates a powerful, positive feedback loop. With more energy, you will have more clarity and more courage to look at your list again and choose the next piece of dead wood to place on the fire. You are not demolishing your life. You are renovating it, one liberating act of subtraction at a time. You are the sculptor, and with each conscious choice to let go of the non-essential, the beautiful, true form of your own life begins, at last, to emerge. After the refining fire has swept through the cluttered rooms of your life, after you have made the courageous choice to stop, to let go, to burn away the non-essential, you are faced with a new and perhaps even more profound challenge. You are faced with the space that remains, the silence, the emptiness, and the first reaction of the untrained mind to this emptiness is not peace, but a subtle, rising panic. The mind, a compulsive filler of voids, rushes to populate this new, clear landscape with new plans, new anxieties, new distractions. We have cleared the old clutter only to feel an immediate, desperate urge to acquire new clutter. This is because we harbor a deep, instinctual, and misguided fear of emptiness. We have been taught to see it as a lack, a failure, a void. We have not been taught to see it for what it truly is, the womb of all creation. Our terror of the void is a case of mistaken identity. The ego, that chattering sense of self which is built from thoughts, roles, and activities, equates emptiness with its own annihilation. If I am not busy thinking, if I am not defined by my full schedule, if my life is not crowded with possessions and relationships, then who am I? The ego fears that in the silent, empty space, it will be revealed that there is nothing there. It fears its own non-existence. Our culture reinforces this fear at every turn. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. we are told. An empty space on a calendar is seen as wasted time. A pause in conversation is seen as awkward. We have no language or framework for valuing emptiness as a positive and generative state. We see it as a problem to be solved, a vacuum to be filled as quickly as possible. But this is a profound misunderstanding of the nature of reality. Emptiness is not nothingness. It is the field of pure potential. It is the prerequisite for all existence. Without the vast, silent emptiness of space, there could be no stars, no galaxies, no dance of the planets. The stars do not create the space. The space allows the stars to be. Without the empty space inside a cup, it cannot hold water. Its function, its very cupness, is defined by its emptiness. Without the empty space within a room, it is not a room at all, but a solid, useless block of matter. Its emptiness is what makes it habitable. In music, it is the silence that gives the notes their meaning. In art, it is the negative space that gives the subject its form. Emptiness is not a lack. It is the context for everything. It is the sacred space of possibility. This misunderstanding creates a deep internal conflict. There is a part of us, the compulsive filler, that acts like a spiritual hoarder. It frantically grabs at any thought, any activity, any distraction to avoid the discomfort of a quiet moment. But there is another part, the suffocated soul, that is gasping for air. It is crushed under the weight of all the clutter. It yearns for breathing room, for the mental space to think a clear thought, for the emotional space to feel a true feeling. We say that we want new things in our lives. We ask for a new opportunity, a new creative insight, a new love. We pray for something fresh and beautiful to enter our experience. And yet, our arms are already full of things we refuse to put down. Our minds are already crammed with old thoughts. Our schedules are already packed with draining commitments. The conflict is this: we desire to receive, but we are unwilling to become empty. We want the universe to deliver us a precious gift, but our hands are clenched into tight fists, desperately gripping the worthless pebbles we are afraid to release. The core message, the liberating truth, can be expressed in the simplest of metaphors. A cup that is already full of stale coffee cannot receive the fresh, clean water of a mountain spring. To be filled, it must first be joyfully and thoroughly emptied. A hand that is clenched shut cannot receive a gold coin. To receive, it must first open. It must become empty and receptive. To receive the life you truly desire, you must have the courage to create an empty space for it to occupy. This act of creating emptiness is not passive. It is a powerful and deliberate invitation. When you clear a space in your life, you are sending a signal to the universe. You are declaring that you are ready. You are creating a resonant vacuum that, by a law of nature and spirit, longs to be filled. And it will not be filled with just any random clutter. A sacred, intentional space invites a sacred and intentional presence. A clear space invites clarity. An open heart invites love. The non-action we practice here is the discipline of resisting the urge to fill the void. After you have gone through the refining fire, after you have let go of the non-essential, the most important work begins, the work of tolerating and then cherishing the resulting emptiness. It is the choice to sit in the newly cleared room and not immediately rush out to buy new furniture. It is the willingness to let the field lie fallow and trust in its silent, invisible process of regeneration. This is an act of profound faith. It is the faith that the void is not an enemy to be vanquished, but a friend to be welcomed. It is the trust that emptiness is not the end of the story, but the clean white page upon which the next chapter can finally be written. To bring this profound spiritual principle into the physical world, you can practice a simple but powerful ritual. We will call it the practice of creating sacred emptiness. The first step is to choose one small, contained domain in your life to be your laboratory. It could be the top of your desk. It could be a single drawer in your kitchen. It could be the desktop of your computer. cluttered with 100 chaotic icons. Choose one small, manageable space. The second step is to empty it completely. Take everything out of the drawer, off the desk, off the shelf, pile it all on the floor. Do not sort it yet. Simply create the emptiness. Now, with reverence, clean the empty surface, wipe away the dust. Feel its clean, smooth, uninterrupted expanse. Take a moment to just look at the empty space. Feel the quietness in it. Feel its potential. The third step is to become a ruthless curator. You must not put everything back. Look at the pile of items you removed. Pick up each one and ask it a question. Are you truly essential to my life right now? Do you bring me joy and clarity? Do you serve my highest purpose? Only the items that receive an immediate, unequivocal yes are allowed to return to the sacred space. Be brave. Be decisive. You will be astonished at how much of what you owned was merely clutter, placeholders for a clarity you had not yet claimed. The fourth and most important step is to honor the space that remains. You will find that the newly curated surface is mostly empty. There is space between the objects. This space is not a void, it is a presence. It is a visual testament to your new commitment to clarity. Your final task is to resist the urge to fill this space in the coming days and weeks. Let it breathe. Let the emptiness itself be a feature of the design. By performing this simple physical act, you are sending a powerful message to the deeper levels of your own consciousness. You are teaching yourself, through action, not to fear emptiness, but to value it. The outer world and the inner world are mirrors of each other. By creating physical space, you will find that you have also created mental space. You will feel a sense of lightness, of clarity, of peace. This small ritual will give you the courage to create larger spaces in your life, to leave an evening unscheduled, to take a day without a plan, to allow for moments of quiet being in your relationships. You will cease to see emptiness as a threat, and you will come to know it as your greatest ally, the silent, gravitational force that pulls into your life everything that you truly need. The rational mind is a magnificent tool. It is a brilliant cartographer, capable of measuring the known world, of analyzing data, of constructing logical arguments, and of building intricate plans based on past experience. We have been trained to worship at its altar, to believe that it is our only reliable guide through the wilderness of life. But a map, no matter how detailed, is only a representation of a territory that has already been explored. When you stand at the edge of the unknown, facing a decision of the heart, a crisis of faith, or a call to a new and uncharted way of being, the map of logic can take you no further. To navigate the territory of your own becoming, you must learn to use a different instrument. You must learn to listen for a signal that is not on any map. You must learn to trust the quiet, unerring compass of your own intuition. Intuition is the most misunderstood and undervalued of our human faculties. It is a deeper form of knowing, a direct perception of truth that bypasses the slow, linear process of reason. Logic works by deduction, by assembling known facts to arrive at a conclusion. Intuition works by revelation. It is a sudden seeing, a quiet knowing that seems to arrive fully formed from a place beyond our conscious thought. But in our noisy, data-driven world, we have drowned out this subtle inner voice. The relentless chatter of our own analytical mind, the constant weighing of pros and cons, the running of scenarios, the internal debatesis like a deafening static that makes it impossible to hear the delicate broadcast. We believe the answer lies in more thinking, more analysis, more information, when in fact, the very intensity of our search is what is jamming the signal. It is crucial to distinguish this true, quiet intuition from its louder, more deceptive counterfeits, fear and wishful thinking. Fear has a frantic, contracting energy. It is loud, urgent, and often accompanied by a litany of catastrophic what-if scenarios. It feels tight in the body. Wishful thinking has a needy, grasping quality. It is the voice of desire, trying to bend reality to fit its cravings. It often feels flimsy and desperate. True intuition is different. It does not shout. It does not plead. It whispers. It often arrives in a moment of stillness, without a strong emotional charge. It feels calm, clear, and expansive. It feels like a simple, quiet truth has landed in the center of your being. It does not always come with a logical explanation to defend itself. Its authority is its own clarity. To the rational mind, this is maddening. But to the listening heart, it is the unmistakable voice of home. The internal conflict we face is between our lifelong training to trust only the quantifiable and the logical, and the undeniable presence of this other, more mysterious way of knowing. We feel a deep, quiet pull toward a certain choice, a certain path, but we have no proof to support it. How can we justify a major life decision to our family, our colleagues, or even to our own inner critic, with the simple statement, "It just feels right"? Because we cannot defend it in the court of reason, we learn to suppress it. We override the subtle, true whisper of intuition with the loud, logical, and often fear-based arguments of the conscious mind. We choose the sensible path that leads to a quiet despair, over the illogical path that our soul was crying out for. This is a profound betrayal of our own inner wisdom, a choice to trust the flickering lamp of the intellect over the unwavering light of our own inner sun. The core message is a call to return to a state of deep listening. All the practices we have explored the creation of stillness, the cultivation of patience, the clearing of empty space, have been preparing you for this. They are not ends in themselves. They are the act of creating a proper receiving station. You have been quieting the noisy marketplace of your mind so that you can finally hear the universe's whisper. For that is what intuition is. A communication from a level of intelligence far vaster than your personal ego. Call it the universe, call it your higher self, call it the Tao. The name is unimportant. What is important is that it does not communicate in the language of force. It does not try to compete with the noise of your life. It whispers in the gaps between your thoughts. It speaks in the language of symbols that appear in your dreams, in the resonance you feel with a line of poetry, in the sudden gut feeling that tells you to turn left instead of right. An action that is born from this place of deep, intuitive listening has a quality of magic to it. It seems to bypass obstacles, to align with a hidden grace. It feels effortless and potent, because it is not just your action. It is an action that is in harmony with the greater flow of life itself. Imagine your intuition is a specific radio station, broadcasting a clear, beautiful signal 24 hours a day. It is always on the air. Your mind, however, is a radio that is constantly scanning other, much louder stations at full volume. The blaring frequencies of Fear FM, Radio Regret, and What If AM dominate the airwaves. Their static is so loud, their dramas so compelling, that you have forgotten the other station even exists. The work of non-action, of meditation and stillness, is the act of consciously turning down the volume on the static. The practice you must now learn is how to deliberately, patiently fine-tune your inner dial to that quiet, clear frequency of your own soul. This practice is for those moments when you face a significant decision, and logic alone has taken you as far as it can. Let us call it the incubation period. The first step is to honor your rational mind. Do the logical work, gather the information, make the spreadsheet, write the pros and cons list, talk to trusted advisors. You are feeding your mind with all the known data. You are using the mapmaker to draw the best possible map of the known territory. The second step is the most crucial, and it is an act of non-action. You must deliberately and completely let the problem go. You must consciously surrender it. You can do this with a small ritual, saying aloud or to yourself, "The logical work is complete. I now release this problem to be solved by a deeper intelligence. I am open to the answer." You must release your white-knuckled grip on finding the solution. The third step is to enter the incubator. This is a period where you consciously engage your thinking mind in an activity that has nothing to do with the problem. You must create a space for your subconscious, intuitive mind to work in the background. Go for a long, aimless walk in nature. Take a hot shower or bath. Listen to instrumental music. Engage in a simple, rhythmic, physical task like gardening, painting, or washing the dishes. Or, most powerfully of all, decide to sleep on it, trusting that the great integrator of the sleeping mind will do its work. The final step is to learn how to listen for the answer's arrival. It will likely not come during the incubation activity itself. It will come in the quiet space afterward. It might be the very first clear thought that arises in your mind the moment you wake up. It might be a sudden flash of insight, a quiet aha that arrives while you are making coffee. It will not feel like you figured it out through a process of deduction. It will feel like the answer has been delivered to you, whole and complete. It will have a signature feeling of calm certainty, of quiet rightness. It will feel like a key effortlessly turning in a lock. When it arrives, your only job is to trust it, even if you cannot yet logically explain it. By using this process, you learn to create a sacred partnership between your intellect and your intuition. You use logic to build the ship, but you allow the silent, unerring whisper of intuition to set the course. You stop trying to navigate the great, mysterious ocean of life with only a map, and you learn to trust the invisible, unfailing guidance of the stars. Our society champions the hero, the problem solver, the one who charges into the fray and does something. We are conditioned to believe that action is always superior to inaction, that intervention is always more virtuous than observation. And so, when we encounter the messy, painful, and complex situations of human life, a friend's deep sorrow, a bitter argument between loved ones, a personal attack designed to provoke us, we feel an immense, almost unbearable pressure to step in. We are driven by a deep and unexamined compulsion to fix, to advise, to mediate, to react. We believe this is the call of responsibility, the duty of a good person. But we must now ask a more difficult and far more profound question. What if the bravest, wisest, and most compassionate action in that moment is to do nothing at all? This compulsion to intervene is often not as selfless as it appears. It is frequently driven by the ego's desire to cast itself in the starring role of the helper or the fixer. When we successfully solve someone else's problem or offer the perfect piece of advice, it validates our own sense of wisdom, competence, and importance. Our help becomes a way to feel good about ourselves. At an even deeper level, we often intervene not for the other person's sake, but for our own. Their raw, untamed emotion makes us uncomfortable. The profound grief of a friend makes us feel awkward and helpless. The anger between two people fills us with a second-hand anxiety. Our clumsy attempts to cheer them up or to calm them down are often just desperate efforts to soothe our own discomfort, to restore our own sense of equilibrium. We are not serving them, we are using them to manage our own feelings. There is also a subtle arrogance in the belief that our intervention is always welcome or helpful. We rush in, armed with our solutions, lacking the full context of the situation, and trample all over a delicate and necessary process of learning, of grieving, or of resolution that the other person needs to navigate on their own terms. This creates a powerful internal conflict between our social conditioning and our emerging wisdom. The good person script that has been programmed into us since childhood demands that we act. It tells us that to stand by while someone is in pain is to be callous, cold, and indifferent. It equates non-action with a failure of love, but a deeper, quieter wisdom, born of stillness, whispers a different truth. It knows that to truly love someone is sometimes to grant them the dignity of their own struggle. It is to trust that they possess the inner resources to navigate their own life, even if their path takes them through darkness. The conflict, then, is between the ego's frantic need to rescue and the soul's profound respect for another's journey. It is the agony of witnessing the struggle of someone you love, and making the conscious, difficult choice not to take that struggle away from them, knowing that it may be the very crucible in which their strength is forged. The core message is that deliberate, conscious non-action in interpersonal situations is not a sign of weakness, but an act of immense strength, discipline, and love. Let us consider 3 common scenarios. First, the argument. 2 people you care about are locked in a bitter dispute. Your instinct is to jump in, to mediate, to take a side, to offer a solution. But your intervention simply adds a third chaotic energy to an already unstable dynamic. You become another target, another piece on the board. The brave non-action here is to refuse to play. It is to hold a space of calm, neutral presence. It is to listen without judgment. Your silence is not empty. It is a powerful container. It silently communicates, "I will not fuel this fire. I trust you both to find your own way back to peace." You become an anchor of stability in a sea of turmoil. Second, the sadness. Your friend is experiencing a deep loss or heartbreak. Their grief is a vast, dark ocean, and it is not a problem to be solved. It is a territory to be journeyed through. Your cheerful platitudes, your unsolicited advice on how to get over it, are like trying to patch a tsunami with a band-aid. They are an insult to the sacredness of your friend's experience. They communicate that you are afraid of their pain. The bravest and most loving action you can take is to do nothing. It is to simply sit with them in the darkness. It is to make them a cup of tea. It is to listen if they want to talk, and to be comfortable in the shared silence if they do not. Your quiet, unwavering presence is a powerful message. It says, "I am not afraid of your darkness. I will not abandon you here. You are not alone." This is the most profound comfort you can ever offer. It is the gift of your own non-anxious presence. Third, the provocation. Someone directs anger, jealousy, or a personal attack toward you, attempting to bait you into a conflict. The instinct, the lifetime of conditioning, is to defend your honor, to bite back, to prove them wrong. The most courageous non-action is to refuse the invitation. It is to meet their chaotic, aggressive energy with a calm, unbreachable wall of peace. It is to look at the bait and consciously choose not to take it. This is not submission. It is a demonstration of absolute self-mastery. It is a quiet declaration that your inner peace is not for sale at the cheap price of their drama. You are communicating that you are the mountain and they are merely the weather. Their storm cannot move you. To cultivate this wisdom, you must stop thinking like a frantic participant and start thinking like a skilled professional surgeon or an emergency rescuer. When a paramedic arrives at the scene of a complicated accident, they do not rush in screaming and pulling people from the wreckage. To do so would be to cause more injury. Their first action is a form of non-action. They pause, they breathe, they assess the entire scene, they triage. They determine where their intervention will be most effective and, just as importantly, where it might be harmful. They act from a place of calm, focused assessment, not from panicked impulse. Their power is in their steady hand and their regulated nervous system. This must be your model. Here is the practice. It is the art of active, conscious witnessing. The first step is to notice the impulse arising within you. You feel that powerful, righteous urge to jump in, to fix, to defend. Recognize this for what it is, the ego's desire to be the hero of the story. The second step, as always, is to drop your anchor. Take one conscious breath. Feel your feet on the ground. This creates the sacred pause between the conditioned impulse and a potentially unwise action. The third step is to ask yourself 3 discerning questions in that pause. First, is my intervention truly needed right now, or am I simply trying to relieve my own discomfort? This question checks your motive. Second, do I have enough information and wisdom to be genuinely helpful here? This question checks your knowledge. And third, is it possible that my conscious, non-action-me, silent, stable, loving presence is the most powerful and helpful contribution I can make? This question presents the higher alternative. If the honest answers to these questions suggest that intervention is unwise, you then consciously choose the role of the witness. This is not a passive or cold state. You are actively holding a space of peace and compassion. You are being the mountain in the room. You are listening with an open heart, without formulating your next response. You are offering the silent gift of your own regulated nervous system to the chaotic environment, which is often more healing than any word you could ever say. You will find that by practicing this, your relationships will deepen in trust and respect. You will conserve immense reserves of your own energy by refusing to become entangled in dramas that are not yours to solve. And you will discover a form of courage that is far rarer and more powerful than the courage to charge into a fight. You will discover the profound, unshakable courage of the one who is strong enough not to. We have spoken of the mountain and the storm, of finding a steadfast anchor when the external world threatens to sweep us away. But now we must turn our gaze inward to confront a more intimate and subtle weather system, the ever-changing climate of our own minds. There is a fundamental error in perception that condemns us to a life of inner turbulence, a mistake so profound and so habitual that we do not even recognize it as a mistake. We believe that we are our thoughts. We believe that we are our emotions. When sadness visits, we do not say, "A feeling of sadness is present." We say, "I am sad." When anger flares, we do not say, "The energy of anger is moving through me." We say, "I am angry." In this simple, reflexive act of grammar, we perform a catastrophic fusion. We mistake the fleeting, passing weather for the vast and permanent sky. This fusion of self with thought and feeling is the root of all mental suffering. By identifying with the passing cloud, we inherit its nature. If the cloud is dark and heavy with despair, we become dark and heavy. If the cloud is charged with the electric fury of rage, we become the rage itself. We grant these transient mental events the power of our own identity, and in doing so, we are condemned to be tossed and turned by their every whim. We live inside the storm, believing the wind and the rain are the very substance of our being. We have no memory of the clear, silent, boundless blue that lies just behind the thinnest layer of gray, because we have forgotten that we are the sky and not the cloud. This is a life of profound instability, for if our sense of self is built upon the shifting sands of our moods and thoughts, then we are forever at their mercy, our inner peace, a fragile hostage to the next passing thought. The ego, in its desperate need for a solid identity, is the architect of this prison. It clings to powerful emotional and mental states because they provide a strong, albeit temporary, sense of self. To be the one who is angry, or the one who is anxious, gives the ego a role to play, a story to tell. It would rather be the tragic hero of a storm than the silent, seemingly empty presence of the clear sky. And so it fuels the identification. It replays the angry thoughts. It rehearses the sorrowful story. It feeds the anxiety with more what-ifs, all to maintain the integrity of its cloud-based identity. This creates a terrible internal conflict. A part of us, the soul, longs for the boundless freedom and unshakable peace of its true, sky-like nature. But another part, the ego, is terrified of dissolving into that vastness. It clings to the familiar, painful drama of the storm because it is the only identity it knows. We are caught between the gravitational pull of our true, spacious self and the addictive, dramatic intensity of our passing emotional weather. The core message, the truth that can set you free, is the realization of this mistaken identity. It is a simple but world-altering shift in perspective. You are not the clouds, you are the sky. You are the vast, silent, and indestructible awareness in which all the clouds of thought, emotion, and sensation appear and disappear. This truth does not deny the reality of the clouds. The storm is real, the pain is real, the darkness is real. The practice is not to pretend the clouds do not exist. It is not to fight the clouds or try to force them to go away. That is just another form of struggle, another storm. The practice is to expand your awareness, to shift your primary identification from the temporary content of your mind to the permanent container of your mind. A thunderstorm may rage with terrifying violence, but it does not stain or damage the sky. The sky simply holds it, allows it to unleash its energy, and watches it pass, knowing that its own fundamental nature of clear, peaceful emptiness remains untouched. To know in your bones that you are the sky is to find a peace that is not dependent on having a cloudless mind. It is to find a peace that is vast enough to hold even the most turbulent of storms. How do we learn to live from this sky-like awareness? We must practice the art of disidentification. We must create a space between the observer and the observed. This is done through the simple, gentle, and profoundly transformative act of naming. The practice is this. Whenever you notice a strong emotional or mental state arising, your work is to gently, silently, and non-judgmentally label it. The first step is to notice. You must become a watcher of your own inner world. You notice that familiar tightening in your chest, the cascade of looping, worried thoughts. You have caught a cloud in the act. The second step is to name it. With a soft inner voice, you give it a simple, objective label. Not, "Here comes my horrible, life-ruining anxiety again," but simply, anxiety. Not, "I can't believe he said that. I am so furious," but simply, anger. Not, "I am a sad person," but simply, sadness. Not a long, looping chain of obsessive worries, but simply, thinking, or even more simply, worrying. This act of labeling is a subtle magic. When you name something, you are implicitly distinguishing yourself from it. You are the one who is seeing and naming the anxiety. Therefore, you cannot be the anxiety. You have created a tiny but liberating pocket of space. You have shifted from being the cloud to being the one who is observing the cloud. The third step is to watch the cloud with a gentle, dispassionate curiosity. Having labeled it anger, you now observe it as if you were a scientist encountering a new natural phenomenon. How does anger manifest in your body? Is it a heat in the face, a clenching in the fists, a tightness in the stomach? What kind of thoughts does it generate? You are not judging them. You are not getting swept away by them. You are simply studying them. Ah, so this is what anger feels like. This is what it does. By doing this, you are treating the emotion not as the absolute truth of who you are, but as an impersonal, temporary weather pattern of energy and sensation that is moving through the vast space of your being. As you practice this, something extraordinary begins to happen. The clouds lose their power over you. By refusing to fuse with them, you stop feeding them with your energy. The anger, when it is simply observed as a bundle of sensations, will still be hot, but it will burn itself out much faster. The sadness, when it is simply held in a spacious, compassionate awareness, will still be heavy, but it will flow through you like a river instead of becoming a stagnant swamp. You will come to see that you are not a fragile boat tossed about by the waves of your own mind. You are the deep, silent, unmoving ocean itself, and the thoughts and emotions are merely the ephemeral weather on your surface. You will discover an unshakable core of peace that was there all along, obscured but never absent. You will have come home to the vast, open, and eternally peaceful sky of your own true nature. We have been taught to measure our lives in visible achievements. We are a culture obsessed with the tangible, the quantifiable, the thing that can be photographed and displayed. We celebrate the architect who designs the towering skyscraper, but we overlook the quiet, supportive culture that made his work possible. We applaud the grand, heroic gesture, but we fail to see the power of 1,000 small, unseen acts of kindness that hold our world together. We have come to believe that the only real power is the power that makes a loud noise, the power that leaves an obvious mark. But we have been looking in the wrong place. The most profound and world-shaping forces, in both nature and in the human heart, are almost always invisible. This obsession with the visible is driven by the ego's deep-seated need for acknowledgement. The ego operates on a transactional economy. It performs an action, and it expects payment in the currency of credit, praise, or gratitude. This need for recognition is a powerful motivator, but it contaminates the purity of our actions. We do a good deed, and then we wait, anxiously, for the thank you. If it does not come, we feel a sense of resentment of having been cheated. At a deeper level, we harbor a terror of being inconsequential. We fear that if our efforts are not seen, then they do not matter. We are afraid that our lives will have no impact unless we can point to a concrete, measurable result. And so we make our actions loud. We announce our contributions. We posture and perform, ensuring that our good deeds are done in the full light of day where everyone can see and admire them. We have been taught that our legacy will be written in monuments of stone, and we have forgotten that a truer legacy is written in the unseen ripples we create in the hearts of others. This creates an internal conflict between the part of us that needs to be seen and the part of us that yearns to act from a place of pure, unadorned authenticity. It is the conflict between the ego, which performs an action and then waits impatiently for its applause, and the soul, which finds its complete and total fulfillment in the act itself. We see the world rewarding the loud, the self-promoting, the person who is most skilled at claiming credit, and we feel a pressure to play that game. But our deeper wisdom knows there is a quieter, more graceful, and more powerful way to exist. It is the conflict between the noisy marketplace of human achievement and the silent, potent monastery of the heart. To choose the latter is to embark on a more subtle and advanced path of power. The core message is a call to shift your understanding of influence. You must learn to be like the wind. You have never in your entire life seen the wind. You have only ever seen the evidence of its passing. You have seen the leaves of the aspen tremble in a great shimmering dance. You have seen the tall grasses in the meadow bow in a unified flowing wave. You have seen the sails of a great ship fill, pulling the immense vessel across the ocean. You have felt its coolness on your skin on a hot day. The power of the wind is undeniable. It shapes landscapes. It carries seeds to new continents. Its persistence can wear away mountains. And yet, the wind itself is invisible, formless, silent, and utterly unconcerned with receiving credit for its work. It does not need the trees to thank it for their dance. It does not need the ship to praise it for its journey. It simply is a force of movement, of change, of life. This is the new model for your own power. As you cultivate the inner states of stillness, of clarity, of non-reaction, your very presence begins to change. You cease to be merely an actor on the stage, demanding that the spotlight follow your every move. You begin to become part of the atmosphere of the stage itself. You become a force. Your cultivated inner peace can silently calm a tense meeting without you needing to say a word. Your quiet, centered presence can give a frantic friend the unspoken permission to find their own center. Your refusal to engage in gossip can subtly starve the negative energy in a room. Your impact becomes less about the visible things you do and more about the invisible energy you are. This is the shift from a human doing to a human being. The doing is loud, the being is quiet, but the power of being, like the power of the wind, is pervasive, transformative, and immense. To cultivate this invisible strength, you must retrain your ego to let go of its need for acknowledgement. You must practice acting without any possibility of receiving payment in the currency of credit. The practice is this. Each day, set an intention to perform one small, invisible act of kindness or order. It is an act performed by what we will call the invisible hand. Your only goal is for the act to be positive and for you to remain completely anonymous. Look for the small opportunities that surround you. They are everywhere. At your workplace, you find the coffee station is a mess. Your old impulse might have been to complain or to clean it while grumbling, hoping someone would see your martyrdom. The invisible hand simply tidies the space, wipes the counter, and walks away before anyone notices. You are scrolling online and see a small creator who has shared a piece of their art. Instead of just liking it, you leave a genuine, specific, and encouraging comment from an anonymous account. You are walking down the street and see an expired parking meter. You put a coin in it and walk away. You are in a coffee shop and see someone is a little short on their bill. You quietly tell the cashier you will cover the difference, and you leave before the person even knows. The act itself is only the first part of the practice. The second part is the most critical. After you have performed the act, you must release it completely. You must resist the powerful urge to tell someone what you have done. You'll never guess what I did today. That sentence is the ego trying to cash in its check. You must let it go. Do not even congratulate yourself excessively. The act was not for you to feel virtuous. The act was an expression of your true nature, like the wind rustling the leaves. It needs no commentary. The act itself is its own and only reward. When you practice this, you begin to systematically sever the toxic link between your actions and your ego's need for validation. You start to discover a new and much cleaner source of joy, the simple, pure fulfillment that is inherent in the act of giving, of creating order, of being a quiet force for good in the world. You become more comfortable moving through life without needing a trumpet blast to announce your presence. You begin to trust that your positive energy is having an effect on the world, even if you never see the results. You are learning to be like the wind, a gentle, powerful, and invisible presence that changes every landscape it moves through, not by what it does, but simply by what it is. We have journeyed together through the quiet landscapes of the soul. We have sat by the still lake. We have walked through the fallow field. We have learned to anchor ourselves in the storm and to become the mountain. We have polished the mirror of perception and learned to listen for the universe's whisper. And now, as we stand at this vantage point, a crucial and understandable fear may arise. Where does this path lead? Does this journey into non-action ultimately guide us to a life of passive resignation, a bland and colorless existence devoid of passion, of ambition, of accomplishment? Have we learned to be so still that we have forgotten how to move? This is the final and most profound misunderstanding we must dissolve. The stillness we have cultivated is not a destination. It is the birthplace of a new and unimaginably potent way of acting in the world. The action you knew before was born of friction. It was the frantic striving of the ego, an action fueled by a sense of lack. You acted to prove your worth, to quiet your anxiety, to gain the approval of others, to force a desired outcome. It was the action of the rower straining against the current, every movement a battle against a resisting force. This action is exhausting because it is fundamentally a conflict. It is your small, personal will pitted against the immense, intelligent will of the universe. It is loud, it is forceful, and it is profoundly inefficient. It leaves you feeling depleted because it is an expenditure of life force against a world that seems hostile and uncooperative. The stillness you have cultivated is the necessary crucible for the birth of an entirely different kind of action. Let us call it pure action. This is action that does not arise from a place of lack, but from a place of fullness. It is not born of fear, but of clarity. It is not driven by the ego's need for validation, but flows from the soul's simple desire for expression. It is the action of the boat that has shipped its oars and is now using the rudder, guided by the deep currents of the river itself. This action feels effortless, not because it requires no energy, but because it moves with the energy of life, not against it. It is not draining, it is energizing. It is not a conflict, it is a dance. It is the state of being so perfectly aligned with the present moment that your actions are no longer clumsy interruptions, but graceful and effective continuations of a universal unfolding. The journey inward was not an escape from the world of action. It was the essential training for it. By learning to be still, you have detoxified your motivations. When you act from a place of inner silence, your actions are no longer contaminated by the neediness of the ego. When the mirror of your perception is clear, your actions are based on reality, not on distorted projections. When your mind is anchored in the present, your actions are responsive to what is, not reactive to what was or what might be. When you have emptied your hands of the need to control, you are free to act with power and grace, unburdened by a desperate attachment to the outcome. You have not given up your power. You have surrendered the clumsy, inefficient tools of force and struggle, and in doing so, have been granted access to a power that is infinitely greater. You have already tasted this state. You have known moments of pure action, though you may not have called them by that name. It is the state of flow, that magical experience, where you become so completely absorbed in an activity that your sense of self dissolves. It is the conversation that flows so naturally that the perfect words seem to appear from nowhere. It is the creative project where hours pass like minutes, and you look up, astonished at what has been created through you. It is the moment in sport when the body moves with an intelligence that surpasses thought. In these moments, there is no sense of "I am doing this." There is only the doing. There is no internal conflict, no self-criticism, no worry about the result. There is only a joyful, seamless, and potent immersion in the act itself. This state, which we often stumble upon by accident, can become your new center of gravity. The non-action we have practiced is the deliberate cultivation of the inner conditions from which this state of flow naturally arises. Imagine a master calligrapher preparing to create a single, perfect character on a sheet of rice paper. Her action is not the 10 seconds it takes to move the brush. Her action began hours or even days before. It began in the silent meditation that stilled her mind. It was in the patient, ritualistic grinding of the ink, a process that grounds her energy and focuses her intent. It was in the long moments of stillness where she contemplated the empty paper, becoming one with its potential. All this non-action, this preparation of the vessel, is the most critical part of her art. When she finally picks up the brush, she does not think about how to form the character. Her years of practice are in her bones. Her mind is clear and empty. Her spirit is calm. She holds the brush, and in a single, fluid, unhesitating movement, the character flows through her arm, through the brush, and onto the paper. The act is perfect. It is alive. It has power. It was not born of frantic effort at the moment of creation. It was born of the deep, silent reservoir of stillness she cultivated beforehand. This is the ultimate invitation of our journey together. Your life is the sheet of rice paper. Your daily choices, your words, your work, these are the brush strokes. You have spent time in the silence, grinding the ink of your intention, clearing the vessel of your mind. You are no longer asked to live a life of passivity. You are now asked to pick up the brush, but you will move it differently. You will act not from the frantic, fearful mind that calculates and controls, but from the deep, quiet, and powerful center of your own being. You will act with the courage of one who is not afraid of the outcome, with the clarity of one who sees things as they are, and with the grace of one who has learned to dance with the great, intelligent, and benevolent river of life. The striving has ended. Now, the true, joyful, and effortless creation can begin. Consider, in closing, the master archer. Her power is not found in the noisy flight of the arrow alone. That is merely the result, the final, fleeting expression of a much deeper force. Her true power is found in the long, silent, and potent moment of the drawn bow. It is in the vibrant stillness of her stance, rooted to the earth. It is in the calm, steady drawing back of the string, a gathering of immense potential energy, not with frantic force, but with focused grace. It is in the single, unified line of sight that connects her eye, the arrow, and the distant target. It is in the held breath, a moment of perfect, suspended non-action where the entire universe seems to pause. All the power, all the accuracy, all the magic is contained within that stillness. The release of the arrow is not a decision. It is an inevitability, a natural consequence of a perfectly aligned state of being. This is the journey you have taken. The quiet moments of observation were the drawing of the bowstring. The clearing of your inner mirror was the focusing of your eye. The anchoring in your breath was the holding of your stance. You have not been learning to retreat from the world. You have been learning the sacred art of gathering your power, of aligning your inner state so that when you do act, your action is no longer a desperate shot in the dark, but a true and potent arrow released from the center of your being. The world does not need more of your frantic, scattered effort. It does not need another panicked arrow shot from a trembling hand. The world is crying out for the depth and clarity of your aligned presence. It is waiting for the one who has the courage to be still long enough to find their true aim. The race is over, because it was only ever a race against yourself. The struggle has ended, because it was only ever a struggle against the current of your own life. You are not being asked to do less. You are being invited to act from a place of such profound inner quiet that your doing becomes a form of art, a form of magic, a form of love. Let your life become the arrow, released from a place of perfect stillness, flying true to a target only your soul can see. The real journey does not end here. It begins, not with another frantic step, but with a single, conscious breath.